Chapter 1048 Gods are about to fight inside the elegant manor atop Mount Galleon. A group of 5 immortals stood around a polished round table, deep in serious discussion. The meeting hall exuded an aura of wisdom and power, with ancient tapestries adorning the walls, depicting the history of the immortals. The room was illuminated by mystical orbs of light, casting an ethereal glow over the place. Little did the immortals know that they were being closely observed by the Dark Lord's tiny spiders, magical creatures created by Michael to gather information discreetly. The first immortal was an elderly man with a long white beard that reached his chest. He wore an intricately embroidered robe with silver patterns, and his eyes shimmered with ancient knowledge. Next to him stood a stern-looking woman, her face etched with the wisdom of centuries. Her silver hair cascaded down her back, and she exuded an aura of power and authority. The third immortal was a man of regal bearing, adorned in royal purple robes with golden accents. His long gray hair was neatly tied back, and his sharp eyes were focused and calculating. Opposite him was another woman, her face lined with age and experience. Her dark eyes were sharp and observant, and she wore simple yet elegant robes of deep green, signifying her deep connection to nature. The fifth immortal was a man of quiet intensity, his eyes deep and soulful. His ash-gray hair fell to his shoulders, and he wore robes of deep blue, representing his affinity with the heavens. All 5 immortals looked serious and engrossed in their discussion, unaware of the tiny spiders discreetly observing their every move. Little did they know that the Dark Lord himself, disguised and undetectable, was about to make his move. As the immortals continued their discussion, their voices filled the meeting hall with a sense of urgency and concern. The first immortal, named Elder Arion, spoke with a deep frown. "I have never seen such an anomaly before. These immortals are unconscious, and their life forces are slowly withering away." The stern-looking woman, High Priestess Era, nodded in agreement. "Indeed, the crystal seems to be corrupting their souls more than we initially calculated. We must act swiftly to save them." The regal immortal, Lord Roderick, chimed in. "Perhaps we should inform the Sky Hall and seek help from our elders. This is beyond our expertise." The female immortal with a connection to nature, Lady Sylvana, added, "Yes, their condition is deteriorating rapidly, and our efforts to purify the crystal are not enough." While the immortals debated their next course of action, Michael watched the scene unfold in the mirror held in his hand, floating above the manor. He sighed, realizing that the Queen's crystal containing her piece of soul had indeed started to corrupt the immortals. He knew they were clueless about the true nature of the crystal. The tiny spiders continued to record the conversation, allowing Michael to gather valuable information. He knew that he had to act carefully and secretly to retrieve the crystal without arousing suspicion. As the immortals continued their heated discussion, Lady Sylvana stood her ground, her emerald eyes filled with determination. "We cannot afford to keep the crystal any longer. Its corrupting influence will bring disaster upon us," she urged. However, Lord Roderick, with a gleam of ambition in his eyes, countered, "You fail to see its potential. The crystal contains the power to elevate us all to the half-celestial stage. With such power, we could reshape the world." High Priestess Era added, "We have spent centuries searching for a way to reach the half-celestial stage, and now it lies before us. We cannot let this opportunity slip away." Sylvana remained resolute. "There are other paths to the half-celestial stage that do not involve such a tainted crystal. The Dark Lord himself managed to achieve that stage without the use of this corrupted artifact. If he could do it, so can we." Lord Roderick shook his head. "You forget. We are not the Dark Lord. He is the God of darkness, and his powers are far beyond our comprehension." Undeterred, Sylvana pressed on. "If we do not abandon the crystal, we will suffer the same fate as the Dark Lord in the end, regardless of whether we reach the half-celestial stage or not. Its corrupting influence will consume us all." The other immortals fell silent, considering Sylvana's words. The weight of their decision hung heavily in the air as they pondered the consequences of their actions. The allure of immense power was tempting, but the risk of succumbing to darkness loomed ominously. Unbeknownst to the immortals, the Dark Lord, Michael, remained concealed and observed their every move. The immortals discussed their plan to seek the Sky Hall's help, unaware that Michael's tiny spiders were capturing their conversation. "I believe it's wise to inform the Sky Hall and seek their counsel," suggested Lord Roderick. The other immortals nodded in agreement, convinced that involving the elders of the Sky Hall was the best course of action. Yet, as they reached their decision, an unsettling shift filled the air. The light orbs in the hall flickered and sputtered, casting eerie shadows across the room. The immortals exchanged puzzled glances, unsure of the cause of this strange phenomenon. A peculiar scent lingered in the air, making them uneasy. Sensing something amiss, immortal Sylvana reached out with her instincts and detected an unusual presence in their blood. A surge of fear washed over the immortals as they realized that they had been tainted by an unknown substance. Before they could react, the fear toxin that Michael had unleashed into the hall took hold of their bodies. Panic and dread surged through their veins, leaving them paralyzed with terror. In the midst of the chaos, the lights in the hall suddenly extinguished, enveloping them in complete darkness. The immortals' hearts pounded loudly in their chests as they struggled to see in the pitch-black surroundings. In the shrouded darkness, the immortals huddled together, their whispers filled with confusion and fear. One of them murmured, "This darkness. It's not ordinary. It feels malevolent." Another immortal, still trying to process the situation, hesitantly questioned, "Could this be the Dark Lord's doing?" Dismissing the doubt, one of the more seasoned immortals scoffed, "Nonsense. The Dark Lord met his end at the hands of Noah." Their attempts to conjure light by casting spells proved futile, as an inexplicable gust of wind continuously extinguished their feeble can't-be-him. Their attempts to conjure light by casting spells proved futile, as an inexplicable gust of wind continuously extinguished their feeble flames. Suddenly, a haunting rhyme echoed in the hall, the words sending a chill down their spines. "Diddle, diddle, your lives are so little." The immortals exchanged alarmed glances, their hearts pounding with dread. They felt a sinister presence lurking in the darkness, taunting and toying with them. It was as though an invisible force was mocking their power and control. Fear gripped their souls as they struggled to maintain their composure. Each of them tried to suppress their growing panic, but the relentless darkness and the haunting rhyme played tricks on their minds. In their desperation, one of the immortals attempted to summon divine light, but the darkness seemed to devour even the brightest illumination. The more they tried to dispel it, the thicker it seemed to grow, as if the very shadows had come alive and encircled them. In the suffocating thickness of the darkness, the immortals were blinded, unable to see anything around them. They shouted out into the void, their voices trembling with fear, demanding to know who was behind this sinister manifestation. To their horror, a menacing, devilish voice echoed back, chilling them to the bone. "You know the answer to your question," it hissed, sending shivers down their spines. One of the immortals, his voice quivering, mumbled, "Dark Lord." As the fear toxin continued to grip their hearts, the immortals became more and more petrified. The toxin amplified their fears, making the darkness even more terrifying, and the haunting voice that answered them felt like an embodiment of their deepest nightmares. In the midst of their terror, the Dark Lord's voice returned, cutting through the blackness with an eerie calmness. "Tell me," he demanded, "where did you put the crystal?" Their minds reeling, the immortals felt shocked beyond belief. They had witnessed the Dark Lord's supposed death at the hands of Noah, and now he stood before them, alive and with them, in the very hall where they had convened to discuss their concerns. The immensity of the revelation was too much for them to comprehend. Their immortal composure shattered, and they were reduced to mere mortals, shaken to their cores by the return of the Dark Lord. They could hardly believe their eyes and ears, and the fear toxin made them question the very fabric of reality. Was this an illusion, or had the Dark Lord truly come back from the dead? In the pitch-black darkness, the immortals stood paralyzed, not knowing how to respond to the unexpected and chilling presence of the Dark Lord. As Michael interrogated the immortals, a powerful aura suddenly appeared on his environmental scanning. Reacting swiftly to the change in the situation, Michael tapped into his innate power, connecting with the darkness within each immortal. In response, the immortals felt an intense pain in their chests, coughing and collapsing to the ground. With his dark swords unsheathed, Michael sprang into action, moving with deadly precision. In the pitch-black darkness of the hall, the only sounds that echoed were the chilling growls of the immortals. Michael swiftly ended their lives, cleaving their heads in a few blinks of an eye. Originally, he had planned to extract information about the crystal before eliminating them, but the unexpected appearance of another powerful being left him with no choice but to swiftly kill the immortals. Leaving no witnesses who had realized the Dark Lord was still alive became an imperative for Michael, even at the cost of ending their lives without mercy. After swiftly dispatching the immortals, Michael dispelled the darkness in the hall and moved to a corner where shadows lingered. Embracing his role as the god of darkness, he melded with the darkness, becoming one with it. With perfect harmony, he blended into the shadows, waiting for the powerful being detected in his environmental scanning to reveal itself before him. Chapter 1049: The Overwhelming Power of the Dark Lord. As Michael concealed himself in the darkness, a figure descended from the rooftop and landed beside the round table where the immortals once sat. It was none other than Evan. Shock was evident in his eyes as he saw the beheaded bodies of the immortals, and fear crept into his expression. What happened here? Evan's voice trembled as he took in the horrifying scene. Michael couldn't help but smirk at Evan's reaction, noting the unstable energy radiating around him like a ticking time bomb. The last time they clashed, Michael had been at Godhood Level 1 and had to resort to using Victoria, Evan's fiancée, as a hostage to gain the upper hand. However, this time Michael was at the Celestial stage with Godhood Level 2, making him more powerful than Evan. Despite them both being at Godhood Level 2, Michael's strength surpassed Evan's several times over. As Evan carefully inspected the lifeless bodies, he couldn't find any signs of struggle or evidence of the perpetrator. Unbeknownst to him, Michael remained hidden in the dark corner, a calculating smile playing on his lips. Meanwhile, Michael retrieved several powerful runic parchments from his storage, each designed by Eladir and acquired through the system store at the cost of 5 million badass points. With precision, he placed the parchments on the nearby wall, watching as the runes came to life, vibrating before melding into the stone. As the room remained shrouded in an eerie silence, Michael's neck cracked audibly as he prepared for his encounter with Evan once more. The sound echoed through the chamber, catching Evan's attention. His heart pounded in his chest, and his eyes widened in shock and fear when he saw the figure emerge from the darkness. The air around them felt charged with tension as Michael and Evan locked eyes. Evan couldn't believe what he was seeing. The Dark Lord, who he thought was dead, now stood before him, alive and more powerful than ever. Fear and disbelief washed over Evan as he faced the formidable enemy who he thought died. Terror gripped Evan's heart as he stammered, "Ghost. I go by the name Dark Lord now," Michael replied calmly, his voice sending chills down Evan's spine. With each step Michael took forward, Evan stumbled back, his fear intensifying. The combination of the fear toxin in the air and the shock of seeing the Dark Lord alive made Evan tremble uncontrollably. "You are dead." "No," Evan mumbled in disbelief. He vividly remembered witnessing Noah strike the Dark Lord with the god-killing arrows, leading to a fiery explosion. Unbeknownst to Evan, the two god-killing arrows Olivia gave to Noah during the final moments of the war were actually fakes. In a clever twist, Olivia had entrusted the real god-killing arrows to Michael. So when Noah struck Michael with the 5 original god-killing arrows and the 2 fakes, the genuine arrows remained inert. It was all part of Michael's elaborate plan to fake his death with a spectacular explosion and secure all the authentic god-killing arrows for himself. "I am indeed dead. I am just your deepest fear," Michael taunted, toying with Evan's emotions. For a moment, Evan felt convinced that the Dark Lord standing before him was a manifestation of his worst nightmares. "No," Suddenly, Evan shook his head vigorously, as if trying to break free from the grip of fear. Summoning his courage, he lunged at Michael, aiming a desperate punch at his face. But just as his fist approached Michael, it was caught midair by the Dark Lord, who wore an unsettling smile. "I am indeed dead. I am just your deepest fear," Michael taunted, playing with Evan's emotions. For a brief moment, Evan's mind succumbed to the idea that the Dark Lord was nothing more than a manifestation of his worst nightmares. "No!" Suddenly, Evan shook his head vigorously, as if trying to shake off the fear that had consumed him. Summoning every ounce of his courage, he lunged at Michael and threw a furious punch towards his face. But before the blow could land, Michael effortlessly caught Evan's fist, flashing a twisted smile. "Evan, did you miss me?" Michael's chilling words echoed in Evan's mind, reminding him of the horrific scene where the Dark Queen had forced Victoria to drink the blood tonic against her will. Although Michael had no intention of fighting Evan seriously, he couldn't resist testing his newfound powers, using Evan as a mere practice dummy to display his strength. "You cannot be alive. I saw you explode into bloody mist," Evan growled, still struggling to accept that the Dark Lord stood before him, very much alive. "Don't believe everything you see and hear, Evan," Michael retorted. With a swift and powerful punch, he struck Evan right in the chest, sending him hurtling through the air until he collided with the wall. The fear toxin coursing through Evan's veins slowly began to lose its grip as anger and the pain of losing Victoria overwhelmed him. 2 weeks after the Dark Lord's supposed defeat, Victoria had traveled to meet her family on the R continent after her encounter with Salisi. Tragedy had struck as she was ambushed and slain by a bone dragon. Since then, Evan had been relentlessly tracking down the bone dragon's origins, leading him to the Immortal Council's headquarters atop Mount Galleon. The connection between Victoria's death and the council heightened Evan's fury and determination. "What do you think?" Michael sneered, his taunting words further provoking Evan's anger. Unbeknownst to Evan, the tragic death of Victoria was not the doing of the Dark Queen or the Dark Lord, but rather a manipulative scheme orchestrated by Salesys' death squad. Read chapter 1024. When Salisi saw the devastation in Victoria's house following the Dark Queen's visit, she cunningly devised a plan to exploit Evan's emotions. Believing that the Dark Queen had harmed Victoria and would use her life as leverage, Salisi ordered her death squad member, Stormwing, to stage Victoria's death as an accident. As per Salesys' orders, Stormwing led the Bone Dragon, which had previously escaped from the Immortal Council, to Victoria's location, orchestrating the fatal encounter. When Evan arrived, all he found was a pool of blood and the heartbreaking sight of Victoria's severed wrist, spared by the jaws of the vicious creature. Consumed by overwhelming grief and seething with fury, Evan's heart was now consumed by the pursuit of vengeance. In his anguish, he became a relentless hunter, relentlessly tracking the bone dragon with a determination bordering on madness. As Michael snickered arrogantly, Evan's grief and anger reached its breaking point, firmly convinced that the Dark Lord was responsible for Victoria's tragic death. Blinded by his emotions, he didn't even consider the possibility that someone else might be behind the horrifying act. Fate, it seemed, had brought Evan face to face with the one he believed had taken everything from him. "Bastard!" Evan's anguished scream tore through the air as he lunged at Michael once more. His fists flew like a wild storm, driven by the madness of loss and despair. But Michael was no ordinary opponent. He deftly evaded every punch and kick with ease, his movements fluid and precise. With the help of the powerful runes, the mountain concealed their battle from prying eyes, forming an illusion that shielded them from the outside world. But even within the illusion, Evan's fury and desperation were palpable. As Evan's relentless assault continued, Michael sensed that his opponent had yet to unleash his true power. Tauntingly, Michael questioned Evan's choice of fists over spells and godly abilities. "Is this how you fight a man who killed your love?" Michael sneered, blocking Evan's punch effortlessly and retaliating with a deadly black bolt of lightning. The powerful surge of energy sent Evan hurtling through the air once again, a painful reminder of the one-sided nature of their battle. As Evan's desperation escalated, He channeled all his power into a grand display of spells. The air crackled with energy as he unleashed overwhelming forces, causing the hall to tremble and the very ground beneath them to quake. First, Evan conjured a tempest of swirling winds that tore through the hall, shattering the marble walls and tossing debris into the air like deadly projectiles. The winds howled with fury, threatening to consume everything in their path. Next, he summoned celestial flames that burned with an intensity beyond imagination. The flames danced and twirled, creating a fiery inferno that threatened to consume the entire space. But as Evan's onslaught continued, Michael calmly raised his hand and an energy shield dome formed around him. The responsive shield, a testament to his newfound power as a level 2 god, grew in size and strength. The shield expanded, encompassing the entire hall, and its luminescent glow intensified, emanating an aura of invincibility. The clash of their powers was a spectacle to behold. Evan's spells collided with the resilient energy dome, but they failed to penetrate its formidable defense. The swirling winds and raging flames struck the dome, only to be dispersed harmlessly around Michael. With each failed attempt, Evan's frustration grew, and he unleashed even more potent spells. He tried to bring down the energy dome with bolts of celestial lightning and torrents of freezing ice, but nothing could breach the shield's impenetrable barrier. Meanwhile, Michael remained composed, his eyes cold and calculating as he analyzed Evan's every move. His dark armor glimmered, absorbing the impact of Evan's attacks effortlessly. As the battle raged on, it became apparent that Evan's rage had clouded his judgment. Michael's mastery of darkness and his strategic use of the responsive shield gave him an undeniable advantage. With each futile attempt, Evan's confidence waned, and the reality of facing a truly living Dark Lord began to sink in. The power of Michael's responsive shield astonished even him. As Evan's relentless spells crashed against the shield, it absorbed nearly 90% of their destructive force, leaving Michael unharmed behind his dark armor. The hall became coated in a layer of frost from Evan's icy spells, but it seemed to have little effect on the Dark Lord. The runes Michael had placed earlier concealed the battle from outside detection, ensuring that no one would interfere or sense the immense clash between the two gods. Evan, infused with powers beyond his own, tried desperately to match Michael's might, but it was clear that he was nowhere close to being a true god like Michael. In this confrontation, Michael realized that only the true gods from the realm of gods could stand a chance against him and pose a real challenge, especially those who were at or above the level 3 godhood. Evan's power, gained by grace that was not his own, proved inadequate against the might of the Dark Lord. As the battle continued, Michael's calm demeanor contrasted sharply with Evan's growing frustration and desperation. Each strike from Evan's spells was effortlessly countered by the responsive shield, leaving Evan feeling powerless in the face of such overwhelming darkness. My turn. With a sinister smirk, Michael's hands crackled with power as he raised them, preparing to unleash his own devastating spells. From his palms, sharp wind blades surged forth, slicing through the air with deadly precision. Accompanying the wind blades, bolts of dark lightning erupted, crackling and searing through the atmosphere. But that was not all. The very air above Evan seemed to obey Michael's command, as more lightning bolts materialized from thin air, raining down with electrifying force. As if the spectacle wasn't enough, a ring of dark flames erupted from Michael's body, encircling him in a blazing inferno. The flames were no ordinary fire. They were infused with dark flames, consuming everything in their path with unrelenting fury. The force of the spells was overwhelming, creating an awe-inspiring display: the deadly onslaught of wind blades, lightning bolts, and infernal flames. Desperation and fear etched across his face, but there was a raw power that left the entire hall trembling. Evan's eyes widened in horror as he found himself surrounded by the deadly onslaught of wind blades, lightning bolts, and infernal flames. Desperation and fear etched across his face, but there was nowhere to run. He was trapped within the swirling tempest of Michael's wrath. The wind blades tore through anything they touched, leaving behind a trail of destruction. The dark lightning bolts crackled with energy, striking Evan from all directions, filling the air with blinding flashes of light. Meanwhile, the ring of dark flames incinerated everything in its path, leaving nothing but ashes in its wake. The hall that was once a symbol of power and authority now lay in ruins, torn asunder by the force of Michael's spells. The walls crumbled, and the elegant decorations were reduced to mere debris. The once grand and dignified space was now a scene of chaos and devastation, a testament to the unmatched power of the Dark Lord. As the dust settled and the echoes of the spells faded away, Evan lay defeated amidst the ruins of the hall. His body was battered and broken, and his spirit was crushed by the overwhelming might of the Dark Lord. Michael stood tall amidst the destruction, his dark armor glistening with power, a silent but formidable force that had left Evan utterly powerless. Chapter 1050 Outsmarting Khaleesi in every way. Several days before the battle between Evan and Michael, the journey from our continent to Elon was incredibly vast, spanning a great distance that took many cultivators several days to traverse. Most preferred to use teleportation portals to shorten the trip, but Victoria, instead, decided to embark on a long flight lasting several days. She wanted to enjoy the breathtaking sights along the way before eventually arriving at Saelsis Safe House in the Cassidian Forest. From there, she planned to use a teleportation portal to reach her final destination. As evening descended, the sky transformed into a magnificent canvas adorned with twinkling stars, shining brightly like precious jewels. 3 large, luminous blue moons hung gracefully in the sky, casting a gentle glow over the world below. Victoria soared through the air as she flew above a vast and majestic canyon. The walls of the canyon were towering and rugged, displaying a breathtaking blend of red and orange hues as the setting sun painted them with its warm rays. Moving swiftly, Victoria left the canyon behind and approached the emerald-green Cassidian forest. The forest welcomed her with open arms, its giant trees stretching high into the sky. The canopy above was a kaleidoscope of lush foliage, forming a natural roof that filtered the soft sunlight and created a soothing, dappled effect on the forest floor. The spacious ground between the trees was a haven of vibrant life. Soft, green grass carpeted the forest floor, adorned with colorful wildflowers that added a touch of beauty to the landscape. The air was filled with the sweet scent of nature, and the forest seemed to sing with the harmony of chirping birds and gentle rustling leaves. It was a place of peace and serenity, where Victoria could find solace and comfort amidst the wonders of nature. Unbeknownst to Victoria, she was being closely trailed by 2 individuals. One of them was a mysterious figure shrouded in black robes, with the upper body of an eagle, revealing him to be a beastman. This enigmatic figure was none other than Stormwing, a deadly member of Saelsis' death squad. Stormwing had been tasked by Khaleesi with a sinister mission, to assassinate Victoria and make it appear as if her death was a mere accident. To accomplish his dark purpose, Stormwing carried a pouch filled with a potent alchemical substance, a gray powder specifically used to lure a bone dragon, the very same bone dragon that had seemingly escaped the Immortal Council's control. Meanwhile, unknown to both Stormwing and Victoria, a silent and watchful presence trailed them from the shadows. It was Michael, who had been tracking their movements with great caution. Michael was well aware of Saelsis' intentions, and he had anticipated her every move. When he had asked Gaia to leave Victoria's home, he knew it would lead Khaleesi to make a dangerous assumption, that the Dark Lord would use Victoria's life to manipulate Evan. Michael's keen insights and meticulous planning had successfully lured Khaleesi into his trap. Now, as he followed Victoria and Stormwing, he waited for the perfect moment to intervene and thwart Saelsis' wicked plot. From the vantage point of a massive tree, Michael observed Victoria setting up her camp for the night. He remained silent and concealed, hidden within the dense foliage of the tree. As he watched her, Victoria's words drifted up to him. She expressed relief that the Dark Lord's reign of terror was finally over. "I never felt like this in months. Glad everything is over with the Dark Lord," Victoria murmured softly to herself. She swiftly prepared her camp, changing into more comfortable clothes. Respectful of her privacy, Michael looked away, refusing to invade her personal space. With her camp arranged, Victoria conjured a gentle spell to ignite a warm campfire. Seating herself before the crackling flames, she placed her long sword by her side and closed her eyes, entering a state of peaceful cultivation. Unbeknownst to her, Stormwing was silently descending from the skies, landing on a distant branch, unaware that every movement he made was being meticulously observed by the Dark Lord. As Stormwing approached, he carried a handful of bone dragon bait, a potent substance used to attract the deadly creature. With a subtle movement, Stormwing released the gray powder into the air, allowing it to disperse around Victoria's camp. The bait had no discernible scent, ensuring that Victoria remained unaware of the impending danger that lurked in the air. My job here is done. With a sly grin concealed beneath his hood, Stormwing believed his task was complete. He swiftly departed from the forest, cautious not to be caught between the bone dragon and Victoria. Fully aware of Victoria's limited cultivation at the core strengthening stage, Stormwing knew she would be defenseless against a formidable fusion stage bone dragon. From his hidden perch, Michael kept a keen eye on Stormwing's every move, his mind racing with calculations and strategies. Moments after Stormwing's departure, a distant rumble echoed through the forest, catching Michael's attention. He knew that such a sound was impossible, for the sky above was clear and devoid of any storm clouds. Recognizing the peculiar noise as the bone dragon's thunderous wings, Michael understood that the powerful and deranged creature was heading straight for Victoria's location. Unaware of the imminent danger, Victoria continued her peaceful cultivation on the ground. The tranquility around her soon gave way to an eerie darkness as the colossal creature approached, its monstrous form casting an ominous shadow on the forest floor. The trees quivered violently in response to the bone dragon's immense power. Suddenly, Victoria's eyes snapped open, a surge of instinctive alertness coursing through her. She sensed a formidable presence nearby, a feeling of danger that sent shivers down her spine. However, she was unable to detect Michael, the Dark Lord, as he skillfully concealed himself within the darkness, a master of blending in and remaining hidden. As the bone dragon drew nearer, the ground trembled under its immense weight, and the air seemed to grow colder, carrying the scent of danger that Victoria couldn't ignore. Little did she know that this creature had been driven to madness after being imprisoned for decades, and it was now on a destructive path, seeking to unleash its fury upon any living being it encountered. Michael silently observed the scene as the bone dragon descended through the thick canopy, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake, much like a raging storm. Its skeletal form, devoid of flesh, gave it an eerie and sinister appearance. With its crimson-red eyes emanating a palpable killing intent, the dragon's immense size instilled fear in Victoria's heart. The bone dragon's eyes locked onto Victoria, alive and breathing human, and its roars echoed through the forest, shaking the very ground beneath them. The dragon's hatred for humans, stemming from its long captivity, fueled its aggression upon seeing Victoria. It lunged at her with a ferocious snap, aiming to devour her in a single gulp. Victoria's instincts kicked in, and she swiftly evaded the bone dragon's massive jaw, narrowly escaping its deadly bite. Panic surged within her as she realized her sword was left behind at the now extinguished campfire. With each step the dragon took, the forest around them crumbled, uprooting trees like mere twigs. Desperate to defend herself, Victoria tried to cast spells, but before she could muster enough energy, the bone dragon's bone claws struck her with devastating force. She was sent hurtling through the shattered trees, leaving her body battered and bleeding. In agony, Victoria coughed up blood, her dress torn and covered in mud. Her leg and arms broken from a single strike, Victoria reached for her space ring that had fallen off her finger during the fall. Crawling backward, she sought her only hope of survival, a teleportation scroll within the space ring. However, the bone dragon was relentless, closing in with each thunderous step. Fighting back tears, Victoria clutched a broken branch with her good hand, trying to stand despite her injuries. "I am sorry, Evan." In the midst of pain and despair, she whispered an apology to Evan, reflecting on the cruel twists of fate that had led her to this dire moment. "Come on, you ugly son of a bitch," Victoria roared in defiance, refusing to yield without a fight. Though facing a seemingly insurmountable foe, she refused to give up her will to survive. The bone dragon sensed Victoria's fear and reveled in her suffering, enjoying the taste of vengeance against humans. As it advanced towards her, she clenched her fists, ready to face her doom with courage, despite knowing she stood no chance against the colossal beast. Just as the dragon's jaws were about to close around her, a sudden figure appeared, landing boldly between Victoria and the monstrous creature. It was Michael, the Dark Lord himself. His calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the chaotic situation. "Ever heard of mouthwash?" Michael taunted the dragon before delivering a powerful punch that sent the creature tumbling to the ground. Victoria's eyes widened in shock and terror, unable to comprehend the sight before her. She had believed the Dark Lord to be dead, but here he stood, very much alive and powerful as ever. "Let me take care of this bug," Michael declared with a confident smile, assuring Victoria that he had everything under control. Before she could react, he raised his hand, releasing a knockout potion that quickly overwhelmed her senses. Victoria collapsed to the ground, her fears and worries momentarily subdued by the potion's effects. After gently knocking out Victoria to ensure she remained safe, Michael turned his attention to the suffering bone dragon. He could sense the deep scars of torture etched into its very being, which ignited a spark of empathy within him. Determined to end the dragon's torment, Michael chose to end its life swiftly and mercifully. With a solemn expression, Michael leaped onto the dragon's bone head, looking into its crimson eyes filled with hatred and pain. He understood the dragon's history of suffering at the hands of each side of the dragon's face. In an instant, a connection formed between them, and they locked eyes. Michael's immense power humans, and he didn't wish to cause it any more pain than it had already endured. Summoning the Soul Eater skill, Michael placed his hands gently on each side of the dragon's face. In an instant, a connection formed between them, and they locked eyes. Michael's immense power overwhelmed the dragon's feeble resistance, allowing him to absorb its soul without inflicting further harm. As the process unfolded, a faint white wisp of smoke emerged from the depths of the dragon's eyes, gracefully coiling into Michael. It was a poignant moment, witnessing the dragon's pain slowly dissipate, and its soul finding peace in the embrace of the Dark Lord's power. Michael's expression softened, as he knew he had granted the creature a final release from its suffering. "Now it's time to turn Evan against Salisi," Michael said with a sinister smile, his mind already plotting the perfect revenge. Little did Salisi know that Michael had outsmarted her, recording the conversation she had with Stormwing about assassinating Victoria. Despite Salesys' protective artifact, Michael ingeniously devised a long-range camera using arch-energy crystals and Elidar's runes to bypass her defenses. The camera captured every damning word, and Michael stored the evidence in a recording crystal, a commonplace item in this world. With Victoria now safe from the assassination attempt, Michael held the key to exposing Salesys' deceitful scheme. He felt a sense of triumph, knowing that with this recording, he could easily turn Evan against Salisi and make her pay for her crossing paths with him. The thought of watching Salesys' downfall brought a wicked glint to Michael's eyes as he reveled in his cleverness. Chapter 1051, Turning Evan Against Salisi. Inside the cozy wooden cabin nestled deep within the forest, Michael stood before Evan and Victoria. They were seated in chairs facing a large mirror that Michael had conjured for this moment. He wanted to reveal Salesys' treachery to the couple and make them understand the truth. With a determined look in his eyes, Michael took a step forward and raised his hand, gently spraying a potion onto their faces. As the potion touched their skin, Evan and Victoria's eyelids fluttered, and they slowly regained consciousness. When they opened their eyes, they found themselves in a dimly lit cabin, the sound of heavy rain echoing outside. Their memories of the events before losing consciousness flooded back, but they didn't focus on each other just yet. Their attention was fixed on the enigmatic figure before them, the Dark Lord himself. A mix of fear and curiosity washed over them, but Michael's soothing words and a calming potion diffused their initial anxiety. "Turn your heads to the side," Michael calmly instructed. Evan complied first, turning his head to the side, and what he saw sent shivers down his spine. There, gazing at him with tears streaming down her cheeks, was Victoria. It had been several long days since they had seen each other, but for Victoria, it felt like only a few moments had passed since her encounter with the bone dragon. Unbeknownst to her, Michael had kept her unconscious while Evan sought his revenge on the dragon that had taken her life. The emotions in that moment were overwhelming, a mix of relief, love, and sorrow. To Evan's utter shock, Victoria was alive and well. Overwhelmed with joy and disbelief, he lunged at her, accidentally tripping over the chair she was sitting on. Ignoring their surroundings, the couple embraced tightly, tears of relief and happiness streaming down their cheeks. Michael watched the emotional reunion from the sidelines, allowing them the moment they deserved. "I thought you were dead," Evan said, holding Victoria as if he would never let her go. "Evan?" Victoria choked out through her tears, her heart overflowing with emotions. "The dragon. How did you? I saw your wrist." Evan's words trembled with the memory of the horrifying scene he had witnessed. He vividly recalled finding a wrist with the engagement ring covered in blood in the forest. Unbeknownst to him, Michael had orchestrated the ruse by placing the ring on a severed undead wrist and leaving it at the scene. Suddenly, Evan released Victoria from his embrace and examined her arms, only to find no engagement ring on her finger. Victoria, too, was baffled by its absence, as she had no memory of losing the ring. Unbeknownst to them, it was Michael who had removed the ring after knocking her out. It was only then that they both turned their attention to the Dark Lord, who had been silently observing them. "Are you finished reuniting and ready to learn who sent a dragon after Victoria?" Michael asked Evan and Victoria, his calm demeanor contrasting with the whirlwind of emotions surrounding them. "How are you still alive?" Evan asked in complete shock, unable to fathom how the Dark Lord stood before them unscathed. Victoria was equally speechless, her mind struggling to process the impossible reality. Although Michael had concealed his true power, both Evan and Victoria could sense that he had reached a realm beyond any mortal's capabilities. "You must have called the dragon and pretended to save me." Victoria finally spoke, her voice tinged with suspicion and disbelief. "Can you, for once, use your brain?" Michael rolled his eyes, a hint of annoyance in his tone. With a wave of his hand, Evan and Victoria's bodies jerked involuntarily, their fear growing. As Michael waved his hand, the mirror behind him flickered to life, revealing a scene. Evan and Victoria saw Celici, accompanied by a figure dressed in black robes, hovering in the wind. The scene slowly moved to a grand manor with soldiers lying unconscious on the surrounding grounds. To Victoria's surprise, she immediately recognized the manor as her own and furrowed her brow in confusion and concern. "Evan has been compromised." Sales's voice echoed through the scene in the mirror, and Evan listened intently, his heart racing. "My lady, how would you like me to handle Evan? It poses a challenge since you have elevated him to the status of a god," responded the cloaked figure floating beside Celici, who Evan now recognized as Stormwing. "You are mistaken, Stormwing. The god-killing arrows, even if retrieved by Noah, can only slay either him or the Dark Lord. They are single-use weapons, unable to be replicated or merged into a new form. Once the Dark Lord perishes, the arrows themselves will cease to exist," Celici explained, her voice calculated and composed. "Then how do you propose we handle Evan, my lady? The longer we allow Evan to roam freely, the greater the potential damage he can inflict upon our entire operation," Stormwing inquired, concern lacing his voice. "If Evan has indeed struck a deal with the Dark Lord, his actions will undoubtedly revolve around the life of Victoria. The Dark Lord will undoubtedly use Victoria as a pawn to manipulate Evan into carrying out his bidding. However, if we eliminate this pawn, Victoria, the Dark Lord's hold over Evan will crumble. Evan is a valuable asset that we cannot afford to let slip away," Celici explained, her tone firm and resolute. Evan's and Victoria's minds went blank with shock and confusion as they listened to Sales's ruthless plan. Michael couldn't help but grin, seeing the emotions play across their faces. Celici intended to turn Evan into a weapon against the Dark Lord, But little did she know that Michael was now turning Evan against her. Eliminate Victoria, Stormwing. Make it appear as though her death is accidental. If the Dark Lord truly struck a deal with Evan, we cannot orchestrate her demise to make it seem like the Dark Lord was responsible. It would raise suspicions and Evan might grow wary. However, if her death appears to be an unfortunate accident, the Dark Lord will lose his hold over Evan. This will enable Evan to focus his energies on defeating the Dark Lord's army, without the distraction of his fiancée. I can channel his grief and anger towards our advantage. Sales's cold and calculating voice echoed through the cabin. The pain of betrayal slowly dug deeper into Evan's heart as he clenched his fist. He had served and believed in Salisi, thinking she was a strong and benevolent leader, only to be proven wrong. The revelation showed Evan that Salisi was not the leader he thought she was but a vengeful snake. Is that so? Michael snickered, his eyes narrowing as he focused on the image of Stormwing. For a brief moment, Stormwing's cloak. No, this must be trickery, Victoria shouted in disbelief, unable to accept the shocking truth. Is that so? Michael snickered, his eyes narrowing as he focused on the image of Stormwing. For a brief moment, Stormwing's cloak moved, revealing a glimpse of his upper body, and Michael's instincts picked up on a crucial detail. With another wave of his hand, Michael changed the scene in the mirror once again. This time, he showed Stormwing standing atop a tree branch, pouring a gray powder into the air. As the scene unfolded, Victoria's memories came rushing back. She recalled the events of the campsite, the peaceful cultivation, and the sudden ambush by the bone dragon. What he scattered in the wind is a powerful substance that lured the bone dragon to your place, Michael explained calmly. Lady Salisi. She cannot. Victoria's voice trailed off, unable to comprehend the depth of Sales's betrayal. Michael understood her confusion, knowing how skilled Salisi was at manipulation. Blaming the Dark Lord and painting him as the villain was a tactic that easily deceived people, even those like Victoria who believed in her cause. As silence enveloped them, Michael allowed Victoria and Evan to process the shocking revelation. I have seen him. Evan finally broke the silence. I saw him once, he continued, recalling a day when he entered Sales's meeting hall and saw a figure leaving through a window. Although Salisi dismissed it as one of her spies, Evan had caught a glimpse of an eagle-faced man, just like the one the Dark Lord had shown them. You and the whole world believed I was evil. You said I am evil when I destroyed Thusia. You said I'm evil when I fought Nagaland. But you never bothered to ask why. Michael's voice was cold and powerful, sending shivers down Evan and Victoria's spines. They were left speechless, unable to trust anyone anymore, as the truth of Sales's betrayal sank in. Evan's mind replayed Sales's words about fighting the Dark Lord's minions and making Victoria proud, only now realizing it was all a manipulative ploy. Think about this, she could have called off the assassination because the whole world saw me dying, including Salisi. Yet, she proceeded with a hit, just to manipulate and use you, Michael revealed, exposing Sales's deceit. But there was more shocking news to come. Michael revealed that the powers Salisi had given Evan were killing him. Evan wasn't born as a god, yet Salisi had somehow infused his body with a grace that was now rejecting him. The grave is rejecting you. It's only a matter of time before your soul explodes into nothingness, Michael stated, leaving Victoria in panic and her heart aching for Evan's fate. Evan was stunned, unable to dismiss the acute pain and energy radiation surrounding him. The reality of his body rejecting the grace Salisi had given him was hard to ignore. He knew the Dark Lord wasn't lying to him. His words resonated with Evan's own experiences. If you don't believe me, you are welcome to leave this place. But when you explode, you will take out everyone around you, Michael warned Evan. Victoria, on the other hand, was hesitant to trust Michael completely. She questioned his intentions, fearing that he might be manipulating them for his own gains. So how do we know we can trust anything you say? What if you are just manipulating us? Victoria questioned. He is not, Evan answered Victoria. I feel something wrong with me. I asked Salisi, but she said it was nothing. But I can feel the grace is rejecting my body. When Evan explained, Victoria instinctively grabbed Evan's hand and shivered at the thought of losing him. Whether you choose to believe me or not, I am the only one who can save you and reveal the truth of what's really happening. I am not your enemy, Evan. In fact, neither you nor the world truly understands the impending terror that awaits us, Michael asserted. His voice was filled with conviction, and he looked directly into Evan's eyes, trying to convey the urgency of the situation. Chapter 1052. Evan is now Michael's ally. As the life-changing truth sank in, Evan and Victoria's expressions shifted from disbelief to contemplation. Victoria's animosity towards the Dark Lord began to wane after learning about Sales's betrayal, and she found herself torn between trust and skepticism. Feeling lost and uncertain, they both turned to Michael for more answers. Before blindly trusting anyone, always seek the full truth and know both sides of the story, Michael advised them, his tone earnest. Intrigued, Evan finally mustered the courage to ask the Dark Lord about his own story. He wanted to understand the motivations behind the infamous figure known as the Dark Lord. The whole perception of the Dark Lord being evil began with a prophecy by Qinzhou, one of the Mazeroth founders. That prophecy set off a chain of events that led us to this moment. However, Qinzhou or the Sky Hall never revealed the true intentions of the realm of gods, Michael explained. And what are their intentions? Victoria inquired. To make mortals their unquestioning worshippers. They seek absolute control and will eliminate any resistance to achieve that goal. Essentially, they desire to enslave humanity, Michael replied. Slavery, Evan muttered, trying to process the shocking revelation. Yes, exactly. 5,000 years ago, I erected a barrier between the mortal realm and the realm of gods to prevent the entire world from falling under their control, Michael revealed, leaving Evan and Victoria stunned. Victoria's astonishment was evident as she processed the information. 5,000 years old? That's impossible. Michael chuckled. Not exactly. The one who created the barrier was me, but that was before I reset the entire universe. I know it's hard to believe, but it's the truth. Evan and Victoria exchanged bewildered glances, struggling to wrap their minds around the revelation. Michael's frustration was palpable as he expressed his irritation with their tendency to blindly follow Sales's narrative without questioning her motives. Don't mistake this as an attempt to recruit you. Evan, your condition makes you a ticking time bomb, and I already have stronger subordinates than you, Victoria. I have no use for either of you, Michael clarified, wanting to set their expectations straight. But I'm doing this because, whether you like it or not, I've known both of you since I arrived in Rivertown. I hate seeing you manipulated by that bitch, he added, genuine concern underlying his words. Evan's curiosity got the better of him, and he couldn't help but ask, "What do you want from us?" To his surprise, Michael's response was cold and calculated. "Nothing. As I said, you are free to leave, but ID advised the two of you against revealing that I'm alive. If you do, I won't simply fake my death. I'll unleash every bit of my power. You can only imagine the consequences that would follow. I may be on the side of good, but I am not a saint. If someone threatens my life, I will go all out, prioritizing my well-being." Michael knew that Evan and Victoria wouldn't easily leave the cabin without falling into his plan. He wanted to give them the truth and offer them a choice, rather than manipulating them completely. Though he had his own battles to fight, he hoped that they would stay out of his way and keep the world in peace until he was ready to settle down with Nithril ruling the world. But if Noah and his allies stood against him at that time, he would not hesitate to face them head-on, even if it meant taking their lives for real. "I want to have a long talk with Salisi." Evan clenched his fist, his sadness and pain replaced by a fiery fury. "Killing her won't solve anything, Evan. If we take out one Salisi, another will rise to take her place. We need to figure out who is truly behind all of this because there's always a bigger threat lurking in the shadows," Michael explained. "So, I should just let her go and pretend nothing happened?" Evan growled. "Yes," Michael nodded. "Let the world believe Victoria died, just like they believe I'm dead. ITLL, keep her safe while you stay close to Salisi. But remember, Don't pick sides until you know the truth. When you're with her, observe how she manipulates everyone around her. Use your brain, Evan. Deep down, you know it's the right choice, said Michael. For a few moments, Evan and Victoria contemplated Michael's words. Finally, Victoria broke the silence in the room. I want him safe. If what you said about his grave rejecting his body is true, I demand a cure for him, Victoria asserted firmly, showing her determination. I'm heading somewhere next where I might find a cure for him. You have my word that I will do everything in my power to fix him, Michael responded, his tone filled with confidence, which strangely brought a sense of reassurance to Victoria. Then, with a swift motion of his hand, Michael produced a golden parchment and tossed it towards Evan and Victoria. Keep these scrolls safe. They are teleportation scrolls. They will sense if you are in mortal danger and transport you to a safe location, Michael explained, making sure they understood the importance of the scrolls. Both Evan and Victoria nodded, grateful for the aid Michael offered, despite their complicated feelings towards him. After Evan and Victoria left the cabin, Vidora appeared through a teleportation portal. Everything is ready. I've been monitoring the Council of Immortals, and they are heading towards the mountains. We need to go now if we want to secure the crystal, Iag informed Michael. Before leaving Mount Galleon, Michael had asked Vidora to keep a close eye on the Immortals. The destruction and loss of their fellow Immortals had sent them into a panic, and they decided to protect the crystal that held a piece of the Queen's soul. Do you believe Evan will work with us now? Sarba inquired as Michael prepared to head back to the Immortal Council. He will, Michael replied with confidence. We'll have a spy deep within the heart of our enemy's ranks. Iag chuckled in delight. Selisi is not my enemy. I could kill her any time I want. But I want to learn more about Andor and see if he truly controls Selisi. Someone is pulling her strings, and I need to know who it is before taking action. With Selisi believing him dead, she will soon make a mistake, and Evan will be there to exploit it and give us the information we need, Michael explained. Kane nodded in agreement with Michael's plan. Then, Vidroa leaped onto Michael's shoulder as he teleported himself near Mount Galleon using his runic teleportation. Once he appeared at the freezing cold mountaintop, Michael flew above the manor, scanning the area for any sign of the Immortals. Soon, he spotted them, carefully making their way down the mountain using a narrow pathway. There they are, Iag whispered into Michael's ear. Hovering above the sky, Michael observed the Immortals as they arrived at a wall of snow on the mountain. To his surprise, they placed their hands on the wall, causing the mountain to tremble slightly. The ice wall opened, revealing a hidden cave entrance. Before Michael could follow them, the wall closed, trapping the Immortals inside. Unaffected by the strange energy barrier around the mountain, Michael calmly floated towards the ice wall, bypassing the narrow pathway. When he arrived at the wall, Michael placed his hand on it and called upon the system. System, open this wall for me, Michael calmly requested. With 300,000 badass coins from Michael, the system surpassed the runes on the wall, allowing Michael to enter the cave. The inside of the cave was illuminated by a soft blue glow, eliminating the need for a light source. Following the footprints left by the Immortals, Michael reached the end of the cave where he saw several old men and women dressed in pure white robes standing around a mysterious black crystal. Michael noticed a dark wisp of smoke emanating from the black crystal and entering the heads of the Immortals. They stood around in a trance-like state, their gazes fixed on the ice ceiling. Kill those fools and bring back the crystal to the demon's grave. Michael suddenly heard the voice of the Queen in his head, causing a jolt in his body. How does she keep invading my thoughts? Michael wondered, feeling perplexed and ready to take action against the Immortals. Soon, Michael quietly approached the group of Immortals as he saw them forming a circle around the black crystal. One by one, they joined the circle and their eyes glazed over, indicating they were under some form of mind control. The dark wisp of smoke from the crystal seemed to be manipulating their minds, rendering them obedient to its will. Taking advantage of their trance-like state, Michael stealthily moved closer to the Immortals, his dark swords unsheathed and ready to strike. Each step was calculated and silent as he closed the distance, his heart racing with the anticipation of the impending confrontation. I am writing this chapter with a fever. So sorry for any mistakes. Chapter 1053, finishing the Queen's quest. As Michael stealthily approached the Immortals, he decided to take a different route, dropping down from an elevated place rather than using the stairs. He closed his eyes, expanding his senses throughout the cave, and confirmed that there was no other way out for the Immortals but through him. With them trapped, his sole task was to eliminate them all. Walking towards the Immortals, he felt the heavy energy radiating from the dark crystal. Surprisingly, the crystal tried to ensnare him in a trance, but being the god of darkness, Michael was able to resist its influence and break the connection. I wonder what they were thinking, Iag mused from atop Michael's shoulder. The Immortals were all looking up, their eyes rolled back behind their eye sockets. Kill them all and sever the connection with my crystal. The Queen's voice echoed in Michael's head again. Stop doing that, Michael whispered through gritted teeth, frustrated with the intrusion. What did we do? Asked Iag, confused by Michael's reaction. I can hear the Queen's voice inside my head, Michael whispered, circling around the entranced Immortals. Why aren't we hearing her? Sarba inquired. Why would you want that, you moron? Iag scolded her brother, lowering her voice. Meanwhile, Michael moved his hands in front of the Immortals to see if they reacted to his presence. As expected, they remained completely entranced by the crystal in the middle. Kill them. The Queen's voice echoed once more, and Michael couldn't help but let out a slightly annoyed response. Okay. With his two dark swords in hand, Michael moved with lightning speed, a blur of motion as he swiftly decapitated each of the Immortals. Their heads rolled off their bodies, blood spattering on the ground, creating a gruesome scene. Despite the brutal attack, their bodies remained firmly rooted to the ground, unaffected by their severed heads. Ignoring this oddity, Michael continued his path towards the dark crystal. As he approached the crystal, he noticed a dark smoke shrouding it. Upon slaying the Immortals, Michael witnessed wisps of white smoke being absorbed from their lifeless bodies into the crystal. The system's notifications continued to ring inside his head, rewarding him for his lethal actions with experience points and badass points. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing an immortal. The reward is 2 million experience points and 5,000 badass points. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully being a badass. The reward is 8,000 badass points. The crystal seemed to pulsate with energy, and Michael could feel a surge of power emanating from it. He knew that this crystal contained a piece of the Queen's soul, and it was crucial to prevent it from falling into the wrong hands. The Queen's voice in his head had made it clear that she wanted him to retrieve the crystal, and Michael had no intention of disobeying her. Despite their decapitated state, the bodies of the immortals remained rooted to the ground. Michael paid no mind to this strange phenomenon and proceeded toward the dark crystal. The crystal was enveloped in a cloud of dark smoke, and as Michael took the lives of the immortals, he noticed wisps of white smoke being absorbed into the crystal. The crystal is devouring their souls, Sarba observed, noting the eerie white smoke floating into the dark artifact. This crystal contains a piece of the Queen's soul. What did you expect? Michael chuckled as he reached out to grasp the crystal. A sudden electric sensation ran down his spine, and he found himself in a disorienting vision. In the vision, he stood alone before a massive army, with the surroundings plunged into darkness, and a volcanic mountain spewing lava streams on the horizon. It took a moment for Michael to shake off the vision and return to reality. Bring it to the demon's grave. Yet again, Michael heard the Queen's voice in his head. The demon's grave. Got it? Michael replied to the Queen's voice in his head. As he turned to leave, Sarba raised a valid question. What about these bodies? Shouldn't we destroy them? Nah, it will give the immortals something to worry about, Michael said with a devilish grin. With the world believing the Dark Lord to be dead, the Council of Immortals would be baffled and terrified, decided to let them speculate and stew in fear over the mysterious deaths, trying to figure out who had slain their brethren. Destroying the bodies with dark flames might raise suspicion, as the use of such powerful primordial flame could leave traces behind. Michael decided to let them speculate and stew in fear over the mysterious deaths. After acquiring the crystal, Michael swiftly utilized his runic teleportation to reach the safe house provided by Nithrol. In an instant, he found himself in a spacious hall, illuminated by a magnificent chandelier. At the center of the hall, Eladir was engrossed in engraving glowing runes on a teleportation portal. Thanks to Eladir's ingenuity, Michael had been able to transport the teleporter from his dark castle to Nithrol's safe house when the Skyhall army captured his stronghold. "How's the task coming along, Eladir?" Michael inquired, approaching the runemaster. "It's challenging, to be honest. These rune words require the expertise of another 6-star runemaster. Are you certain about teleporting yourself into the realm of gods? We have no idea how far that realm is." Eladir expressed his concern, his brows furrowing. Michael stood before the colossal teleporter, observing the dark vortex swirling in its center, surrounded by glowing runes adorning its frame. "And what about the barrier that separates our realm from the realm of gods? How do you know it will allow you to pass through?" Eladir added, genuinely worried about the well-being of the Dark Lord. To him, Michael was not just a lord but also a cherished student and son figure. "Because I placed the barrier," Michael calmly replied. He was aware that the previous Dark Lord had created the barrier with the intention of entering the realm of gods after defeating Noah. However, Michael had different plans. Instead of killing Noah and creating a hole in the barrier, he staged his own death and devised a plan to use the powerful system to breach the realm of gods. The cost demanded by the system to teleport him through the barrier was staggering, 50 million badass points. Such an expense would leave him with only 10 million badass points, but it was a risk Michael had to take. "Don't try to stop him, Eladir," Sarba sighed from her perch on Michael's shoulder. "Activate the teleporter to the forge," Michael instructed. "You managed to obtain the Queen's crystal from the Immortals?" Eladir inquired. Michael nodded. And as Eladir closed his eyes and sketched a few runes in the air, the vortex started swirling. Michael confidently stepped into the vortex, disappearing from the hall. Michael materialized at his forge but found no ongoing work there. Deciding to leave the forge for the time being, he activated his metal wings and soared to the peak of Mount Hades. From this vantage point, he could witness the vast expanse of the demon's grave, a desolate landscape where a colossal bull grazed in the distance, and a myriad of eerie and diverse monsters roamed freely. The red sky and black lightning contributed to the eerie ambience of the place. "Hey Queen, do you have a specific location in mind for this crystal?" Michael inquired, producing the dark crystal from his space ring with a casual gesture. A heavy silence greeted Michael as the Queen remained unresponsive. However, a faint glow appeared in the distance, illuminating a barren ground. "I suppose that's where you want me to place the crystal," Michael surmised, his voice unwavering as he addressed the unseen Queen. With a graceful flap of his wings, he took flight and headed toward the glowing area. "Where?" Sarba asked. "You can't see it," Michael replied simply, his wings propelling him through the sky with ease. Within a matter of minutes, Michael touched down on the ground, where the earth emanated a soft glow. To Vidroa, the ground appeared crimson and sandy, seemingly unremarkable in comparison to the rest of the demon's grave. "Here you go. One soul crystal delivered to you." Michael carefully placed the crystal on the ground, his anticipation evident in his posture. However, no immediate response came. "Can I leave?" Michael asked, looking around for any sign of acknowledgement from the Queen. But before he received a reply, the ground beneath him trembled violently. The earth cracked open, and the crystal plunged into the depths of the fissure. In a blink, the cracks sealed shut as if swallowing the crystal whole. "Guess my work is done," Michael muttered, intending to depart. Yet, a sudden chill ran down his spine, compelling him to turn back. Above the very spot where he had placed the crystal, a haunting silhouette of a woman emerged, formed from dark, ethereal smoke. Vidora, the three-headed hydra perched on Michael's shoulder, trembled in fear, an uncommon occurrence for such a formidable creature. My next piece of soul is in the realm of gods, the same place where you are going next. Retrieve it from the god who holds my soul crystal, and I will grant you a favor." The figure spoke, and Michael immediately recognized it as some manifestation of the queen. While fear didn't grip him, her offer did surprise him, especially her willingness to offer a favor. "Since I'm already heading to the realm of gods, it won't hurt to retrieve your crystal. But this time, there's no time limit," Michael declared. "Very well. Just remember not to keep me waiting for too long. Otherwise, my pet over there can turn your beloved forge to dust," the queen warned, pointing a smoky finger toward the colossal bull in the distance. Michael was taken aback, finally uncovering the truth behind the enigmatic creature. Ever since he set foot in the demon's grave, the colossal bull, towering enough to touch the clouds, had puzzled him. Now he understood that the bull was a pet of the queen. "Deal," Michael sighed, agreeing to the queen's terms. Chapter 1054 Introduction to the Realm of Gods. With the queen's task completed, Michael returned to Nithrol's manor, where Gaia eagerly awaited him. She knew Michael was about to embark on his journey to the realm of gods and wanted to bid her husband farewell. The hall was empty, with only a cozy sofa set in the middle and windows overlooking the serene canyon and the shimmering lake. "Everything went well?" Gaia asked Michael, her eyes filled with concern and love. Michael nodded and wrapped his arms around her, pulling her into a warm hug. They shared a passionate kiss, cherishing each other's presence before parting. "Nithrol will be here in a few moments," Gaia informed him. Michael settled on the sofa, and Gaia joined him, their eyes locked in a loving gaze. "I am only going there next week," Michael calmly revealed, surprising Gaia. "Why? What's the reason?" she asked in shock. "Because I promised you I would take you on a honeymoon when everything is over, and I intend to keep my promise," said Michael, holding Gaia close. He kissed her on the side of her head, showing his affection for her. "When did you become so romantic?" Gaia asked, her voice filled with joy. It had been months since they spent quality time together without any worries. She thought Michael had forgotten about their promise, but she understood the immense responsibilities he carried. As his wife, she wanted to support him rather than add to his burdens. "When I married the most beautiful snake in the entire world," Michael chuckled, planting another sweet kiss on her lips. "Where do we go?" Gaia asked, her excitement bubbling over. "Anywhere you want," Michael replied, his heart brimming with love for his wife. Gaia's eyes sparkled with excitement as she reached into her space ring and pulled out a parchment filled with her neatly written notes. "Oh, Michael, you won't believe the places I've been dreaming of. First, there's the Celestial Gardens, a realm of floating islands adorned with vibrant flowers that glow in the moonlight." Michael couldn't help but tease her lovingly. "Taking notes on honeymoon destinations, are we? You really are something else." Gaia playfully swatted his arm. "Of course, I want this to be a honeymoon well cherished forever. And there's more," she continued. "Next, we have the Starfall Meadows, where stars descend every night, dancing across the sky in a breathtaking spectacle. It's as if the heavens themselves are celebrating love." Michael raised an amused eyebrow. "Starfall Meadows, huh? You sure know how to find the most magical places." But Gaia's excitement was infectious, and she couldn't contain herself. "And then, there's the Enchanted Forest, where the trees are said to sing melodies and the flowers change colors with every step you take. It's like walking in a living painting." Michael chuckled. "You really have put a lot of thought into this, haven't you? It sounds like you've planned our honeymoon better than any war strategy." Gaia giggled and leaned closer to him. "Well, my dear Dark Lord, I just want this to be perfect for us. After all, we deserve a moment of magic and joy amidst all the chaos." "You're right," Michael said, his tone softening. "I couldn't think of anyone better to share this with than you." As they bantered and laughed, Michael and Gaia planned their dream honeymoon, choosing one enchanting location after another. As Michael and Gaia continued planning their dream honeymoon, the door to the hall swung open, and Eve hurriedly entered, her face flushed with exertion from training. "Hey, the Empress is here," Eve announced, catching her breath. It was evident that she had been pushing herself to prepare for the battles ahead, determined to fight alongside Gaia when the Dark Lord departed for the realm of gods. Before Michael could reply, Nithroel gracefully entered the hall, unaccompanied by any bodyguards. Her decision to forego protection was a wise one, given the need to keep her association with the Dark Lord a secret from the world that believed him to be deceased. Nithroel gracefully entered the hall, her presence exuding the regal aura of an empress combined with the power of a goddess of hunt. Michael and Gaia warmly greeted her with smiles as she took her seat before them. "I'll take my leave." Eve nodded at Michael and departed from the hall. Wanted to ensure that everything was settled between them, since she had ordered Michael's assassins to find and kill Gaia's biological. "Are you ready to depart?" Nithroel inquired, her gaze briefly turning to Gaia. However, Gaia remained silent, giving no indication of any resentment towards Nithroel. The Empress wanted to ensure that everything was settled between them, since she had ordered Michael's assassins to find and kill Gaia's biological father, Ingram. But as Gaia stayed quiet, Nithroel decided not to delve further into the matter. "Eladir is still working on the teleporter. It should be ready by the end of next week," Michael replied. Nithroel leaned back, crossing her legs gracefully. "What are your plans in the meantime?" the Empress inquired. "Just some personal matters to attend to, nothing major. But it'll be out of reach," Michael responded. "Me neither. Tomorrow I plan to venture into the treacherous ocean. But before I depart, I thought to give you a brief introduction to the realm of gods." Nithroel surprised both Michael and Gaia with her announcement. The treacherous ocean was a perilous place, and they couldn't help but wonder what a goddess and empress like Nithroel intended to do there. "Are you planning to go alone? Don't you have your war gods for such matters?" Michael inquired. "The times are changing, Dark Lord. Now that the world believes you are dead, every kingdom seeks a new villain to target. I understand mortals well. They need someone to hate, fight, and fear to survive, just like they need food, air, and water," Nithroel calmly explained. "And what's your point?" Michael asked, his brows furrowing. "The dwarves and the Beast Kingdom are amassing a large number of soldiers, preparing for war. I've been hearing about the plans of almost every king and queen to expand their kingdoms. The Beast King is even plotting to send his forces to the southern continent and invade them," Nithroel revealed. Gaia chuckled devilishly at the revelation. "Let's see how he invades the southern continent," she snickered. Gaia and Michael had dispatched Lenora and Trista, two of the most powerful elder vampires, to regain control of the southern continent. "Don't underestimate the Beast King, Dark Queen. He may not be a god like me and your husband, but he is just as capable as any god," Nithroel warned Gaia. Curious, Michael inquired, "So, what's the connection between expanding and your venture into the treacherous ocean?" "Power, what else? Whoever controls the untapped potential in the treacherous ocean controls the outcome of any war. And I want that power for the Gondolin Empire," Nithroel declared with cold determination. Gaia couldn't hold back her anger and frustration any longer and decided to confront Nithroel about her ambitions. "Since I am not refusing your request to have my father killed by my husband's assassins, let me ask you, Empress, why are you so keen on ruling the R continent and expanding Gondolin? You are a goddess. Why not plan on returning to your own world?" Gaia questioned. Nithroel understood Gaia's inner turmoil and realized that Michael had informed her about the request to find and kill Ingram. However, Nithroel didn't harbor any ill intentions toward Gaia. If anything, she empathized with her. "When your husband returns from the realm of gods, he will tell you why. The short answer I can give you at this point is that the realm of gods is far worse than this world. Which brings me to why I am here." Nithroel paused for a moment and leaned forward. "If everything goes according to your plan, you will land in the forest of Elrian, the domain of the goddess Marley. Seek her help, but be careful not to get too close to her," Nithroel warned. "Why?" asked Michael, intrigued. "Because she is a lustful predator," Nithroel revealed. Gaia was taken aback by the unexpected revelation as Nithroel continued. "Once you find the divine portals, I'd recommend starting your journey in the realm of gods from Kingdom Nimbosia, ruled by the god of rain, Raynar. It will be a good starting point for you to learn the dynamics of the realm and witness firsthand how cruel a god can be. As Nithroel spoke, she gracefully flicked her wrist, summoning a silver chain with a golden arrow attached to it. With a confident gesture, she tossed the chain to Michael. "This is my medallion. It will conceal your godly aura and keep you hidden from the Pantheon. Remember to wear it at all times while in the realm of gods, unless you want the entire Pantheon's army at your doorstep. Dark Lord, you are venturing deep into the den of countless hungry lions," Nithroel warned Michael. Her concern for his success was evident, as she knew that if he failed, the Pantheon would break the barrier between the mortal realm and the realm of gods. This would lead to a chaotic invasion, with each god seeking to claim a piece of the mortal realm for worshippers and power. Such a catastrophe would shatter her dream of ruling the entire mortal realm, leaving behind the mysterious reason for her ambitious desire. "Is there any chance Raynar would want to make a deal or ally with me?" Michael inquired, his curiosity piqued. Nithroel couldn't help but chuckle at the question. "Oh, my Dark Lord, you have much to learn about the gods. High gods like Raynar, who hold titles such as God of Rain, are devoted solely to the Pantheon. They wield immense power and influence over the mortal realm, even with the barrier in place. For instance, if Raynar were to be killed, the mortal realm would not receive any rainfall until another god of rain was born in the realm of gods," Nithroel explained. Michael found himself increasingly intrigued by the realm of gods and the intricate dynamics at play. However, getting more information was a challenge, especially since meeting Nithroel in person was nearly impossible due to their need to maintain the facade of his death. Perhaps gods without titles or kingdoms to rule might consider allying with you. But to make that happen, you must become truly formidable. Otherwise, no sane god would dare go against the Pantheon. I suggest two potential approaches. Either find a way to join the Pantheon and work with them until you can seize an opportunity to double-cross them, or quietly grow your worshippers within the realm of gods, Nithroel advised. "How do I do that?" Michael inquired. "Select a messenger and send them to spread word about your power. As desperate people begin to pray to you, use your abilities to fulfill their wishes. They will see it as miracles, and your worshippers will grow. However, this approach is dangerous, as no god likes their worshippers being poached. As I said, once you enter the realm of gods, you'll find that things are similar to the mortal realm, only much worse and more cruel," Nithroel cautioned. Chapter 1055. Honeymoon. Despite Nithroel's suggestions, Michael had another risky plan in mind: to ally himself with Dagon, the ruler of Hell. Why? Because Dagon held a deep-seated hatred for the Pantheon, making him a potential ally against their common enemy. "Do you have any worshippers in the realm of gods?" Gaia inquired. Nithroel let out a heavy sigh in response. "It has been thousands of years since I set foot in the realm of gods. I doubt I still have any worshippers there. Even if they remained, it would be futile since I cannot hear their prayers. Other gods may have already poached them. Nevertheless, they might find some solace in serving my name," she explained. The idea of amassing worshippers seemed to weigh heavily on Michael's mind after hearing Nithroel's words. While he had the assistance of the system to grow stronger, he recognized the importance of building his own worshippers for the future. "Is there anything else you can tell me about the Pantheon?" Michael inquired. As Michael inquired about the Pantheon, Nithroel warned him. "They are like the sky hall of the realm of gods, overseeing and controlling everything. Any god who dares to defy them will face severe consequences. Trust me when I say this, you don't want to be on the bad side of the Pantheon. But whatever you do, stay away from gods like Rudra. They don't come out of their kingdoms often, but when they do, only death and destruction will follow them." Nithroel's warning about Rudra, the god of war, echoed in Michael's mind. He knew firsthand the destructive power of Rudra, as a mere orc possessed by a fragment of his strength had overwhelmed him in battle. The memory of that defeat fueled a deep desire for vengeance against the war god. However, Michael chose to remain silent for now, knowing that facing Rudra would require careful planning and immense power. He understood the gravity of Nithrol's words and the need to tread cautiously in the realm of gods, especially when dealing with beings of such immense strength and ruthlessness. Throughout their conversation, Nithrol shared valuable insights about the realm of gods and offered suggestions on how to navigate it once Michael arrived there. After bidding farewell to the couple, Nithrol left them alone. With their preparations complete, Michael and Gaia set off for the Celestial Gardens, a hidden pocket dimension accessible only to those with knowledge of its existence. Nestled above Nagaland, the gardens remained invisible to the people, serving as a perfect getaway for the couple. "Let's go," Michael said, surprising Gaia with his sudden decision. "What now?" she asked. "Let's leave now. I fear something might come up if we stay here any longer." "So I am taking my lovely wife with me," Michael said with a mischievous smile as he swooped Gaia into his arms. "To the honeymoon you truly deserve," he added, his eyes reflecting affection and passion for his beloved wife. Without wasting a second in the safe house, Michael and Gaia teleported themselves to the nearest runic teleportation spot near Nagaland. As they ascended through the clouds, they swiftly changed their armor to disguise themselves from any prying eyes. Gaia, her heart brimming with excitement and anticipation, couldn't help but share her carefully crafted plans for their honeymoon. "Michael, you won't believe the places I've researched for our honeymoon. The Celestial Gardens will be the perfect starting point for our journey. It's said to be a realm of unimaginable beauty, filled with enchanting flora and fauna, and captivating landscapes that will leave us in awe." As they flew closer to the opening of the pocket dimension leading to the Celestial Gardens, Gaia's voice turned slightly melancholic. "I can't believe we only have a week together before you must venture to the realm of gods. I wish you could stay with me longer." Michael gently squeezed her hand and spoke tenderly. "I wish I could too, but dealing with the Pantheon and growing stronger is crucial for our future together. I promise, once I return, we'll have all the time in the world to be together." While Michael and Gaia soared through the sky, a breathtaking panorama unfolded before them. Fluffy, cotton-like clouds floated gently beneath their feet, casting shadows on the land below. The warm rays of the sun bathed them in a golden glow, while the vast expanse of the blue sky stretched endlessly above, dotted with wisps of white. The wind embraced them like a gentle caress, carrying their laughter and whispers through the open air. As Michael and Gaia approached the distortion in space, Gaia's excitement grew. She gestured for him to stop, and as they hovered in the empty sky, she produced a peculiar snake-shaped key from her space ring. To Michael's surprise, the key floated in midair before them. "A key to the Celestial Gardens? I didn't know you had it," Michael said, his eyes filled with curiosity. "I didn't. Mom gave it to me last week." Gaia beamed with joy. "So you and your mom planned this all along." "Sneaky," Michael chuckled, feeling grateful for their thoughtful gesture. "Be grateful Mom didn't kick your butt for not taking me on a honeymoon sooner. Even now, we only have 1 week together. You're lucky to have such a caring and lovely wife," Gaia teased, a playful glint in her eyes as she restrained her laughter. With the key hovering before them, they both reached out and touched it simultaneously. As they did, the distortion in space began to grow, revealing a hidden portal to the Celestial Gardens. Hand in hand, they stepped through the shimmering portal, leaving behind the mortal realm. As Michael stepped through the shimmering portal, he found himself in a breathtaking world unlike anything he had ever seen before. The Celestial Gardens stretched out before him, a realm of floating islands adorned with vibrant flowers that glowed in the soft moonlight. Each island seemed to emanate a gentle aura, creating a mesmerizing sight that captured his heart. The air was filled with the sweet fragrance of the blossoms, and a gentle breeze caressed his face, carrying a sense of tranquility and peace. The sky above was a mesmerizing tapestry of stars, twinkling like precious gems against a backdrop of deep indigo. It felt as if time had stopped in this ethereal place, and Michael couldn't help but be in awe of its beauty. Looking around, he noticed the islands were interconnected by delicate, luminescent bridges that seemed to weave through the air like delicate spiderwebs. Crystal-clear waterfalls cascaded down from some of the islands, creating small streams that meandered through the floating landscape. Hovering in the sky, Michael spread his senses throughout the celestial gardens and found no life signs. With a devilish grin, he ordered the system to lock down the entrance to the gardens. "How much will it cost to lock the palace down?" he asked. "Free. Consider this my wedding gift to you, host." The system replied, surprising Michael. "Wow, that's a first time," he chuckled. As the system closed down the celestial gardens, Michael turned to Gaia with a loving smile. "After you, Snakey." He gestured for her to move forward and enjoy the sight before her as much as she wanted. Gaia shook her head playfully. "Not without you," she said, pulling him close and kissing him passionately. Finally, after being with her for almost 3 years, Michael felt their love reach new heights. The following hours in the celestial gardens were filled with their deep affection and intimacy, their bond growing even stronger amidst the magical beauty of the floating islands and glowing flowers. As the hours passed, Michael and Gaia found themselves lying on a floating mountain above the soft grassland, wrapped in a soft, fluffy bedsheet, and gazing at the sky above. Gaia rested her head on Michael's chest, her eyes filled with love and contentment. "I don't want to sound silly like most girls do, but I'm so in love with you, you bastard." She playfully pinched Michael's cheek. He couldn't help but smile, cherishing these peaceful moments with his wife. "You don't sound silly at all, Gaia. You sound like the beautiful woman I married. I promise you, we will spend the rest of our godly lives like this," Michael reassured her. "With little Michaels and Gaias," Gaia added, her voice hopeful as she looked at him, silently asking if he shared the same desire. Michael held her gaze, his eyes reflecting a mix of emotions. "Why not?" he finally said with a playful smile. Although he had reservations about having kids, he loved Gaia so deeply that he couldn't bear to deny her the joy of having a family. He wanted to make her happy and see her dreams come true. Gaia was stunned and overjoyed by Michael's response. A wide grin spread across her face, and she couldn't contain her excitement. She showered him with kisses, expressing her happiness in each loving touch. "Really? You mean it?" she asked, her eyes shimmering with joy. "Of course. I may not have considered it before, but seeing how much you want it, I can't resist," Michael replied, brushing her hair affectionately. Gaia chuckled playfully. "So, how many kids are we going to have then?" Michael pretended to think for a moment. Let's see. We have eternity ahead of us, right? So why not enough to populate a kingdom?" he teased, his eyes filled with affection. Gaia's laughter filled the air, and she hugged him tightly. "I love you so much," she whispered. "And I love you more," Michael replied, kissing her forehead. They lay there, wrapped in each other's arms, cherishing the moment and the promise of a future together, filled with love, laughter, and the pitter-patter of little feet. A Calm Before the Storm chapter. Chapter 1056. Reaching the realm of the gods as the week with Gaia flew by in the blink of an eye, Michael found himself back at the safe house, ready to embark on his journey to the realm of the gods. He bid farewell to his loving wife and friends, expressing his gratitude and promising to return. In the hall, he found Eladir waiting with the teleporter, the key to his next destination. Vidora perched on Michael's shoulder, the loyal companion accompanying him on this perilous journey. With a sense of determination and anticipation, Michael took a deep breath, knowing that the realm of the gods held both challenges and opportunities that he was prepared to face. "Everything's ready," Eladir said, though his concern for the perilous journey ahead was evident in his expression. Despite his worries, he knew that the Dark Lord's decision was final, and he couldn't dissuade him from venturing into the realm of gods. "There's no point in delaying this any longer. Activate the portal," Eladir urged Michael, his determination unwavering. Without hesitation, Eladir ascended the stairs leading to the swirling vortex. His fingers traced the intricate runes engraved on the portal's frame, each glowing with power. As the runes activated, a distortion rippled through the air, signaling the gateway to the realm of gods was opening. Iag, perched on Michael's shoulder, showed no signs of fear, only excitement for the legendary adventure that lay ahead. "As you wish," Eladir replied solemnly, fully aware of the risks involved. He carefully ensured that no one else entered the hall during the activation to avoid any possible complications. Reluctantly, Michael had agreed to take Vidora with him, mainly because the system had recommended it. Though Vidora hadn't been growing in size, Michael hoped that the realm of gods might hold the key to unlocking Vidora's true potential. As Eladir activated the runes one by one, the black vortex began to form within the teleporter, pulling him towards it. Reacting quickly, Michael rushed up the stairs and pulled Eladir back with a single strong motion, keeping him safe from the vortex's grasp. Time doesn't flow differently in the realm of gods, so you'll see me soon. Hopefully. Michael raised his voice over the howling sound of the vortex. Eladir's concern was evident as he shouted back, "Don't take too long, my lord." With a warm smile, Michael reassured him, "Look after Gaia and the others." As he stepped into the swirling portal, Michael turned back to Eladir and nodded, "I'll see you soon." "See ya around, old man." Ayag chimed in excitedly before Michael disappeared into the portal. As Michael traveled through the swirling portal of colors, he couldn't help but feel the weight of recent events weighing on him. The glimpses of his battle with Noah and all the challenges he had faced in the past weeks played before his eyes like vivid memories. Amidst the journey, Ayag and Sarba expressed their excitement while witnessing the vibrant images surrounding them. "What is this?" Ayag questioned curiously. "A ripple in time and space is causing this," Cain explained. Lost in his thoughts, Michael remained silent, contemplating everything he had experienced. The revelation of Noah being his twin brother still left him in disbelief. Breaking the silence, Sarba spoke up. "Are you going to be this silent the whole way? We have no idea how long it'll take us to reach the realm of gods, so we should talk more." Acknowledging the need for conversation, Michael asked, "What do you want to talk about?" Sarba hesitated for a moment before bringing up a name. "Actually, I wanted to say something. You know Yasmin Winston?" The mention of the name jogged Michael's memory. He recalled meeting her during the baby shower of Princess Catherine, when he confronted King Bredia. "Noah's cousin?" Michael inquired. "Yes," Sarba nodded. "What about her?" Michael asked. "I don't know. Arya said she's been meeting with some important people in R. Also, she didn't partake in the war. I wonder what's more important than fighting the Dark Lord." Ayag pondered. "Whatever she is planning, Gaia can take care of it," Michael said. "Why do I feel like you want her to face everything by herself?" Ayag frowned, surprised that Michael's intentions were evident. "She needs to. I can't always be around her. She used to face everything alone, but now she's starting to depend on me slightly. She is a queen born to lead, so she must lead. This will be a good opportunity for her to lead from the shadows and take care of things while I'm away," Michael explained. "But isn't that the opposite of what the previous Dark Lord said? He was with her and still the previous Gaia died. So why are you letting her do this alone?" asked Ayag. "Maybe the reason she died is that the previous Dark Lord tried to protect her too much. Sometimes you gotta take risks," Michael responded. As they continued discussing Yasmin and even Eve's sister, Michael remained oblivious to the fact that they were clones sent by the Skyhall. Regardless of the Skyhall's plans, Michael had no intention of dealing with them, as he had bigger worries on his mind. Several weeks had passed since Michael entered the portal, and both he and Vidora had grown quite bored. In an attempt to alleviate their boredom, Michael bought a special chessboard and taught Vidora how to play. As the days turned into a month, the once vibrant rainbow tunnel through which they traveled began losing its color, and a whistling wind surrounded them. "I think we're finally here," Michael remarked, but before Vidora could respond, a powerful force sucked them forward, causing Michael to feel as though his body was being torn apart. Closing his eyes, he held onto Vidora tightly to keep them both safe. Suddenly, there was a loud bang, and Michael found himself shot out of the portal. When he opened his eyes, he saw that they had landed on a breathtaking grassland outside a lush and beautiful forest. Michael instantly recalled Nithrol's words, realizing that they must be in the forest of Elrian, ruled by the goddess Marley. As per Nithrol's advice, Michael knew he had to seek Marlis' help before venturing into Nimbosia, the kingdom of the god of rain. The forest of Elrian was unlike any other that Michael had ever seen. Towering ancient trees stretched towards the heavens, their branches intertwining to form a majestic canopy that filtered rays of sunlight, creating a dance of light and shadow on the forest floor. The air was filled with the fragrance of blooming flowers, and the sound of birds singing and leaves rustling added to the enchanting atmosphere. As Michael and Vidora stepped deeper into the forest, they heard faint whispers carried on the gentle breeze. At first, Michael couldn't decipher the words, but soon they became clearer. A lattice voice called out to him, addressing him as the Dark Lord and the God of Darkness. Dark Lord, the voice whispered seductively, venture deeper into the heart of the forest. Embrace your true power and darkness. Let the shadows guide you to unimaginable strength. Michael felt a pull towards the source of the voice, a mix of intrigue and caution swirling within him. He knew he had to be careful, for this could be a trap or a test from Marley, the goddess of the forest. But he couldn't resist the temptation to explore further. Marley, I presume? Michael asked as he ventured further into the forest, undeterred by the haunting whispers around him. He recalled Nithrol's warning about keeping his distance from the lustful goddess, but he remained steadfast. You know me, how lovely. The whispers took on a seductive tone, making Iag uncomfortable on Michael's shoulder. Dude, this is creeping me out, Iag chimed in. Now I want to see you fight, handsome, but on my terms. The whispers grew louder, and the forest began to shift and change. The fauna cleared, creating an empty space in the middle of the forest. Michael felt his power being drained, as if Marley had absolute control over him in her domain. Unsheathing his dark swords, Michael cracked his neck and stood ready. 7 men clad in armor made of bark and leaves emerged from the surroundings, their faces hidden behind masks made of tree barks, and each wielded a silver sword with 4 arms. Is this how you welcome another god into your domain? Michael challenged, wondering how Marley could sense his presence despite wearing Nithrol's medallion, which was supposed to mask his godly aura from others. Seemingly reading his mind, Marley responded with a mysterious air. I forged that medallion for Nithrol, my dear Dark Lord. But don't worry, your secret is safe with me. Now show me how you survive in battle. As Marley's whispers echoed through the forest, veins shot out from the ground, wrapping tightly around Michael's legs and torso. They felt like living tendrils, strong and unyielding. Above him, more veins descended from the branches of the trees, latching onto his arms and restricting his movements. The masked figures, each displaying uncanny speed and coordination, dashed at Michael from all directions. Their silver swords glinted in the dappled sunlight filtering through the dense canopy. Michael struggled to free himself from the grip of the magical veins, but they seemed to tighten with every move he made. Don't think he'll let you off easy, my dear, Marley whispered, her voice tinged with amusement and intrigue, but Michael surprised her by remaining calm and composed. As the first masked figure dashed at him, his eyes turned black, and 2 dark beams shot out from them. Simultaneously, Vidora sprang into action, using their 3 hydra heads to chew through the veins that bound Michael's arms. This is your domain, but you forgot one thing, Marley? Michael said with a sly smile as he broke free from the remaining veins with Vidora's assistance. The attackers hesitated, intrigued by Michael's words. What is that, dearie? Asked Marley, genuinely curious. Forget it, Michael chuckled, knowing he had to play his cards right. I'll just kill them. With a swift motion of his hand, Michael unleashed the dark flames, enveloping the attackers in shadows. The forest erupted with chaos as the masked figures struggled to defend themselves against Michael's overwhelming power. Marley watched with a mix of fascination and satisfaction as Michael effortlessly dispatched the attackers. He moved with the grace of a dancer, his dark swords slicing through the air, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. Despite the intensity of the battle, Michael held back from using his full strength. He knew Marley wasn't trying to kill him. She wanted to witness his prowess, and so, he gave her a captivating performance, using his power and skills to put on a show. As the last masked figure succumbed to Michael's dark swords, the forest fell silent. But suddenly, a rustle broke the stillness, drawing his attention. Emerging from the shadows, a woman adorned in little more than a few strategically placed leaves approached him with a seductive grace. "Hello, my dear Dark Lord," purred Marley, her voice a sultry melody that sent shivers down Michael's spine. Chapter 1057. Founders of Mazeroth is in the realm of gods. Before him stood the most mesmerizing woman he had ever seen, surpassing even the beauty of Gaia and Layla Alden. Yet, despite her alluring appearance, Michael remained composed and unaffected, surprising Marley. As she moved closer, he simply conjured robes to cover her and addressed her calmly. "Pleasure to meet you, Goddess Marley, I presume," Michael said, his demeanor unwavering. Marley's attempts at seduction seemed to have no effect on him, which only seemed to fuel her desire for him. She couldn't resist moving closer, her breath hot on his skin, and her intoxicating fragrance filling the air. However, Michael gently stepped back, holding up his hand to reveal a wedding ring. "You're a bit late for the seduction game, Marley. I am already married," he said, showing no hint of temptation. Marley felt a tinge of disappointment, but her desire for him remained unyielding. "Let's not waste our time and discuss how you can help me reach the divine portals," Michael straightforwardly asked Marley. In a seductive tone, Marley countered, "What do I get in return?" "The rarest jewel of all, my friendship," Michael confidently replied. Unfazed, Marley pushed further. "What if I said I want all of you or none of you?" Michael couldn't help but snicker at her proposition. He exuded an air of arrogance backed by formidable power, which only seemed to draw her closer to him. There was an undeniable magnetism about him that piqued her interest like no other god she had encountered. Unperturbed, Michael replied, "Then I will leave this forest and find my own way. Trust me, I'm no stranger to surviving in a new world all on my own. I've done it before and I can do it again. But do you really want to be on my bad side?" As a god, fear was an alien emotion to Michael, and he certainly felt none towards Marley. Though he sensed that she was a god of higher power, he remained composed and unafraid. Unexpectedly, Michael reached out and pulled her closer, his hand wrapped around her waist. "We both know there's something that draws you to me as much as I'm drawn to you. So let's cut the pretense and discuss how we can help each other," he said coldly before releasing her. Marley moaned with delight, taking pleasure in asserting her dominance over him. Michael now understood why Nithrol had warned him not to get too close to Marley. "So you seek my help in finding the divine portals. Let me guess, she also told you to go to Nimbosia first and witness the atrocities of Raynar, the god of rain," Marley said, amusement lacing her voice. Curious, Michael pointed to the tree-shaped medallion hanging around his neck. "She gave me this medallion to suppress my god aura and hide my presence from the other gods. But you claim you forged it. What's your connection with Nithrol?" "Let's take a walk through my domain and talk," Marley gestured, leading Michael beside her. The forest came alive as the fauna and vegetation gracefully moved aside to make way for them. In this part of the world, the divine portals are rare. There is one in the desert of Vikan, but you'll have to fight through monsters and ugly creatures roaming the desert. If they don't get you, the desert dwellers will," Marley warned. "As a god, I believe I can handle a few monsters and whatever these dwellers are," Michael confidently asserted. Marley chuckled, amused by his naive bravado. "Honey, this world is not very different from the one you came from. The people here are unaware of the existence of the world below them. The fortunate mortals who manage to break through the celestial stage end up here, but their memories and powers are stripped away. They either become worshippers to the first god they encounter or go mad. A handful retain their memories, but they always strike some kind of deal with a god." Marley explained the intricacies of the realm of gods. "My point is, dear, only a god will recognize another god. However, since you're wearing my medallion, they will see you as nothing more than a commoner in this world. But don't let being a god get to your head. There are creatures here that can take down even a god and consume their soul. Some of these creatures have lived here longer than any god. she warned as Michael calmly walked beside her, attentively listening to her words. Besides, if you use your god powers too much, the Pantheon will sense you and find you, regardless of whether you wear my medallion or not. The medallion is for you to keep safe while you learn about this world and build your worshippers. The more devotees you have, the more power you will gain, said Marley. But with the system and the dark seeds, he kinda didn't need worshippers to level up his godhood. Yet, he had a feeling things might not be as simple as he thought. But won't building too many worshippers draw the Pantheon's attention? Michael asked. It certainly will. Did you expect your life to be easier here? That's why Nithroel prefers the mortal realm over the realm she was born in. Marley chuckled. Things are simple in the mortal realm, but here everything is complex and messy, thanks to the Pantheon. Now, let me tell you something that will complicate things even further for you. Since I assume you won't join a Pantheon, you won't get your own kingdom. So, you have to poach worshippers from other gods. Trust me when I say this, gods do not like it when their worshippers are taken away. Piss them off too much, and they will send their angels to smite you. Marley warned Michael, relishing in the challenge she presented to him. But luckily for you, there is an opportunity you can exploit. The Thunder God and Rain God are not on friendly terms. If one of them were to die, you could potentially claim their kingdom if you plan your moves right. However, it will draw the attention of the Pantheon. So whatever you do, it's impossible for you to survive here without crossing paths with the Pantheon. My suggestion to you is to draw their attention and strike some kind of deal. They are all too focused on Dagon, so they might be willing to bring you to their side. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Honey, Marley advised, enjoying the thrill of revealing the complexities of the realm of gods to Michael. Marley suggested that Michael work with the Pantheon rather than against them. However, she had no idea about his true plans to ally himself with Dagon and fight against the Pantheon. As he listened to her explain the complexities of the world, Michael began to consider the idea of working with the Pantheon, at least for the time being. I don't think the Pantheon will welcome me with open arms, Marley. Apparently, the god of time and space has a bone to pick with me. And your god of war crashed my wedding, Michael said, watching Marley's reaction closely. As soon as she heard the name God of War, her face drained of color, and she trembled in fear. You seem to have pissed off two of the most powerful gods in the Pantheon. How did you do that? Asked Marley, clearly taken aback by the revelation. Michael chose not to reveal too much and pretended to have no idea about the reasons behind the god's enmity towards him. He didn't want to give away too many details to Marley, as he was still uncertain about her true intentions and allegiances. I don't know, Michael shrugged in response to Marley's question about Rudra's actions. But it's weird. Rudra doesn't just attack other gods on a whim. He's usually a pretty chill guy. If he decided to do what you said, he must have had a pretty good reason. Damn, I hate thinking too much. This is why I stay as far as possible from the Pantheon and their bloody politics. Marley pouted, clearly frustrated with the complexities of the godly world. As they continued walking through the forest, the silence between them lingered for a few moments before Marley finally spoke up. You can spend the night in my forest and we can talk more about this world, she offered. Thank you for your hospitality, but I need to ask you something. Why are you helping me? Michael inquired. Because I need your help, obviously. I told you about the war between the Rain God and the Thunder God. Many of my worshippers are getting caught in the middle, and they both don't care about the worshippers of another god. Since I cannot leave my domain, I want you to find a way to bring my worshippers here. Marley explained her reasons. And why can't you leave your domain? Michael asked curiously. Not just me, honey. No god who has a kingdom can leave their domain. You'll have to ask the Pantheon why. Marley responded with a hint of mystery in her voice. The sudden revelation that no god could leave their domains opened up a world of possibilities for Michael to exploit. If he could somehow kill a god, there wouldn't be interference from another god. But to achieve such a feat, he needed to learn more about the god-killing arrows. Have you ever heard of the people who discovered Mazeroth, if you know Mazeroth in the mortal realm, that is? Michael asked Marley. But when Marley heard his question, she burst into laughter. I know them very well. They are no longer just people, darling. They are gods here and serve the pantheon, Marley said, surprising Michael with this unexpected twist. When did everyone become a god? I have the worst luck in the entire universe. Michael sighed inside. Chapter 1058 The Worshippers of the God of Darkness. Honey, they've been serving the pantheon for thousands of years. No wonder they were made into gods, Marley remarked as she licked her wrist, conjuring a camp. With a flick of her wrist, several logs flew toward the campfire and landed neatly. Michael settled onto a log, facing Marley. I thought you cannot turn someone into gods, Michael said. We all thought so. Life is full of surprises, especially when it comes to the pantheon. Speaking of making gods, that's one of the reasons why Dagon rebelled against the pantheon, Marlia explained. At the mention of Dagon's name, Michael's curiosity was piqued. He wanted to learn more about why a god like Dagon was banished from the realm of gods and relegated to ruling over hell. What do you mean? Michael inquired. Surprisingly, Vidora curled into his inner pocket and fell asleep. Dagon was always curious and an old god. Many gods don't know the truth. What I do know is that he started asking the pantheon too many questions about their origins, their powers, and their creator, Marley elaborated. I believe it triggered the conflict between the pantheon and Dagon. To know more, you'd have to ask either the pantheon or Dagon himself. Marley chuckled as if making a jest, but seeing the chilling expression on Michael's face, her smile faltered. I was joking. Never try to involve yourself with Dagon, Marley cautioned Michael, her fear palpable in her eyes and words. This only fueled Michael's curiosity further. If he was to align himself with Dagon against the pantheon, he needed to learn more about him. From what I've heard from you, Dagon didn't seem like a villain. There must be more to the story, Michael remarked. Dagon is not the good guy in the story, darling. He slaughtered millions of devotees of other gods, mainly those in the pantheon and their angels. He razed places where the pantheon held dominion, causing countless deaths. His thirst for knowledge and hatred for the pantheon turned rivers of this world into streams of blood, Marley explained. Michael absorbed her words silently, then pressed further with another question. You mentioned that if one of the rain god or thunder god were to die, I could potentially take over their kingdoms. How does a god die? Specifically, how can a god be killed? Marley responded with a chuckle to his inquiry. Honey, that's a question nobody can truly answer. No one has witnessed a god's death or how one can be killed. Legends and tales speak of ancient monsters capable of devouring a god's soul, but we've never seen a god die. Not since I've been around, and believe me, that's quite a long time. But I do believe that anyone can be killed if the assailant is skilled enough, Marley said, her smile containing a hint of intrigue as if she had sensed a killer within Michael. The reason I mentioned Raynar or Croner potentially dying is that I have a sense you're exploring ways to slay a god. Your devotees, even though they are few and hunted by many, believe that only you, the god of darkness, possess the ability to bring down a god. Fortunately, the pantheon doesn't seem to be putting too much stock in that belief. Otherwise, you'd be at the top of their hit list alongside Dagon, Marley explained. I have worshippers? Michael was taken aback by the revelation. Yes, somehow, some of your temples have managed to stand despite the pantheon's influence, Marley said. Her limited knowledge of the previous Dark Lord and her confined access to the outer world of the realm of gods meant she wasn't familiar with the history of the previous god of darkness. Now that you're here, you'll likely start hearing prayers directed your way, Marley added. As Michael processed everything Marley had shared about the gods and the realm of gods, a thoughtful silence settled between them. But before you embark on your godly pursuits, I need your assistance to save my worshippers. Do we have a deal? Marley inquired. With a resigned sigh, Michael nodded. It's a deal. But to reach Nimbosia, I still require your guidance to locate a divine portal, Michael stated. As I mentioned earlier, the nearest portal is in the Viken Desert, within the Temple of Hayathi. Yet, reaching the portal won't be straightforward. But I have full faith in your abilities to locate it, Marley assured, causing a faint smile to grace Michael's lips. I can fight my way to the portal, But how am I supposed to ensure the safe passage of your worshippers through the same portal? Michael voiced his concern. Battling monsters and opponents was one thing, but safeguarding innocent lives was another matter entirely. That's something you don't need to worry about. Among my followers, there's an individual who possesses an artifact granted by me. This artifact enables her to utilize the portal within Nimbosia to travel here. Locate her, and your task will be much simpler, Marley explained. Beneath her initial facade of a lustful deity, Michael was beginning to glimpse a compassionate and considerate goddess. Nithrol's counsel to seek Marla's assistance had proven wise. However, Michael sensed there might be a history shared between Nithrol and Marley, a story he felt wasn't appropriate to delve into at the moment. Rest now. You can set off for the Viken Desert as soon as tomorrow, Marley suggested, her demeanor shifting. The warm and benevolent goddess he had seen earlier was replaced by her previous allure and desire towards him. Yet, Michael merely smiled and settled down on the ground. Would you like a view? Marley inquired playfully. With a wave of her hand, the canopy above them shifted, revealing a night sky adorned with countless stars. As Michael lay beneath the starry sky, his eyes closed, and he began drifting into slumber. Within his dreams, faint whispers grew louder, chanting, "May the god of darkness embrace us." He found himself in a shadowy realm, surrounded by figures cloaked in absorbing darkness. They encircled a powerful stone statue resembling him, in a room adorned with pulsating symbols. The chant intensified, summoning his godhood with reverence and longing. Michael felt a connection to these worshippers, united by an unseen thread. Gradually, the dream's edges blurred, figures fading, and the room contracting until only the chant remained. Then, like a fading whisper, the dream dissolved, leaving him in tranquil slumber. Amidst his dreams, Michael heard a persistent call, "Wake up," from Iag. The soft nudging of Vidora's heads against his face accompanied the summons. Gradually, the dream world gave way to the gentle embrace of reality. The morning greeted him with the melodic chirping of birds and the soothing caress of a calm breeze. As his eyelids fluttered open, he was met with the gentle warmth of the rising sun on his face. The world slowly came into focus, and his gaze met Vidora's watchful eyes fixed upon him. "You're awake!" Michael heard Marla's voice and rose from the ground. Vidora swiftly hopped back onto Michael's shoulder, readying themselves for the journey to the Viken Desert. "If you set out now, you should reach the Viken Desert by nightfall. But wait at the desert's edge until sunrise before venturing further. In other words, avoid traveling through the desert during the night," Marley cautioned with a serious tone. "Why?" Iag inquired. "You'll understand once you witness the monsters that roam the desert at night," Marley replied succinctly. "But remember what I told you. Don't use your godly powers excessively. ITLL alert the Pantheon. Rely on your swords in battle," Marley advised. "You mentioned these monsters can even devour a god. So how are we supposed to fight them with just swords?" Iag retorted, his tone laden with skepticism. "Figure it out, genius. Unless you want the Pantheon breathing down your neck, follow my advice," Marley retorted with a sly smirk. "I'll handle it," Michael interjected before an argument could ignite between Iag and Marley. "Good. Now go." Marley gestured for them to depart. "N0 v lose B. C0 Moss." Michael took a step forward. Marley lightly tapped her forehead and conjured a golden parchment with a flick of her wrist. "This parchment contains a map detailing the journey from here to the Viken Desert. Use it wisely." Marley tossed the map to Michael, then moved forward to kiss him on the cheek. "Back off." Michael was taken aback as all three heads of Vidora, Kane, Sarba, and Iag, hissed at Marley in unison when she kissed him. "You're not getting close to Gaia's man," Iag hissed, their fierce loyalty to Gaia, Michael's wife, evident in their protective stance. "I'll catch up with you later." Michael brushed aside the confrontation and began ascending into the sky. As Michael ascended higher into the sky, Marla's figure gradually grew smaller and smaller, eventually blending into the landscape below. With a determined focus, Michael propelled himself forward, slicing through the air with newfound speed. The wind rushed past him, carrying the distant echoes of Marley's words and the memories of their conversation. Following the guidance of the map Marley had given him, Michael dashed forward through the vast expanse of the sky. His destination lay in the distant horizon, the treacherous Vagabond desert. The golden parchment in his hand provided a roadmap for his journey, outlining the twists and turns that would lead him to his destination. Beneath him, the forest he had spent the night in began to shrink, gradually fading from view as he soared higher. The once lush canopy gave way to the open sky, and the vibrant greenery vanished, leaving behind only the endless stretch of blue above and the earth below. After 2 days of continuous flight, the expanse of the Vagabond desert finally came into view beneath the darkened night sky. Michael's eyes fixed on the seemingly tranquil desert landscape on the horizon. The vast stretch of sand and dunes appeared deceptively calm from a distance, but a sense of unease began to creep in. Does anyone else have a foreboding feeling about this desert? Sarba's cautious question broke the silence as they approached the desert. Michael gradually reduced his speed, gliding closer to the desert's edge. The sand seemed to shift like a constantly moving canvas, with ripples and waves forming intricate patterns under the night sky. The air was cool and carried a hint of sand, a testament to the desert's harsh environment. The starlit sky stretched above, providing a stark contrast to the arid desert below. Despite its serene appearance, Michael couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this desert than met the eye. As he drew nearer, the sense of unease only deepened, reminding him that appearances could be deceiving. Approaching the desert's edge, Michael was suddenly confronted by an unimaginable sight. Emerging from the sands with a thunderous roar, a colossal creature reared its head, a nightmarish embodiment of terror. This behemoth resembled an immense centipede, its segmented body extending far into the desert. The moonlight illuminated its scales, casting an eerie glow across its hide. The creature's roar resonated through the silent desert, sending shivers down Michael's spine. Its sheer enormity left him feeling insignificant in its shadow. The centipede-like monster's scales shimmered like burnished metal under the starry sky, reflecting glimmers of moonlight. Each segment of its body was adorned with sharp, glistening spines that seemed capable of tearing through anything that dared to challenge it. Its many legs undulated with a disturbing fluidity as it moved, kicking up swirls of sand in its wake. The creature's eyes glowed with an otherworldly intensity, fixated on Michael and his companions as they hovered above the desert floor. The realization struck Michael with a jolt. This was undoubtedly the reason Marley had cautioned against traversing the desert at night. The monstrous centipede before them was a testament to the dangers within the seemingly tranquil landscape. What in the holy hell is that? Sarba's voice trembled with shock. Chapter 1059 The Goddess of All Monsters standing beside a withered tree at the desert's edge. Michael swiftly retrieved a handful of drones from his space ring. With a command, the drones whirred to life, taking flight and venturing into the depths of the desert. Their tiny forms buzzed against the strong desert winds, disappearing into the vast expanse to gather information. The recent encounter with the colossal centipede monster left Michael still reeling, his thoughts momentarily dazed by the sheer magnitude of the creature. It was the second time he had encountered such an immense monster, the first being the colossal bull within the demon's grave. Sarba's voice crackled over the communication channel as he reported, "I can't detect any discernible energy radiation from that creature." Iag echoed the sentiment, adding, "Same here. There's nothing registering on my radar." Turning to the source of his guidance, Michael queried the system for assistance, his use of the system's abilities now more judicious considering his dwindling amount of badass points. He had spent a significant portion to arrive in the realm of gods. "Is there a way to gauge the power level of that monster?" he asked. The system's reply was immediate. The system can provide a device for power level estimation for a cost of 400,000 badass points. Michael weighed his options. "You can, but I want to assess if the creature is stronger than me or not." The system interjected with caution. "While the system's main priority is your safety, engaging with a monster of that magnitude could trigger the use of your powers. It's advisable to avoid using them, as the Pantheon could detect you once they're activated. It's recommended to hold off on using your powers until you're more capable. Speaking of growing stronger, I need 2 more dark seeds to advance to level 3 godhood. Correct? Michael inquired. That is correct, the system confirmed. The system outlined that to reach godhood level 3, Michael required 3 seeds of darkness, and 4 to attain level 4. Beyond level 5, his progression would involve specific tasks and locating potent artifacts. A relatively straightforward path compared to other gods, who often remain stagnant in their godhood level due to unattainable challenges. While Michael engaged in this internal conversation with the system, his attention was drawn to a curious sight. Within the desolate landscape, he spotted several cloaked figures stealthily taking cover amidst the ruins of a structure, concealed within the heart of the desert. Michael quickly zoomed in on the figures using the tablet he held in his hand. Vidora's multiple heads leaned in closer, examining the feed from the drones. Desert dwellers? Iag questioned, his tone laced with curiosity. N0V C0M, it appears so, Michael replied, his eyes fixed on the images. Why would they be in a place like this? Sarba pondered aloud. Kane, another of Vidora's heads, chimed in with a more pressing concern. Perhaps the question should be how they're surviving the desert's monsters during the night. One of the figures within the drone feed broke away from the group, seemingly to relieve himself. Cloaked in robes that concealed their identities and goggles to shield their eyes from the abrasive sand, they moved with cautious familiarity. The man ventured outside the shelter of the ruin, his gaze inadvertently falling upon the colossal centipede monster, the Sand Emperor, seemingly drilling into the sand without much concern. Are you sure this is the right place for the deal, Gadden? We've been waiting here for days, and I'm getting tired of this endless sand. The man muttered as he attended to his business. Listening intently to the conversation, Michael's curiosity deepened. The dialogue hinted at some kind of transaction, a deal in progress, and a mysterious artifact involved. The mention of angels that served gods, added a layer of complexity to the situation. That's what Raynar's angel informed us. Once we secure the artifact, we're supposed to hand it over to the angel for payment. Another man replied. What comes next after that? The man outside the ruin inquired. I can't say for certain. Maybe Raynar's angels plan to use the artifact to eliminate Croner's angels and put an end to their ongoing conflict. The speaker responded, his annoyance at the situation evident. Ease up on the war, Gadden. Wars are profitable, especially when they're gods fighting each other. The man outside the ruin chuckled. Gadan's voice held a mixture of frustration and fear as he added, I know, but I despise dealing with those angels. They give me the creeps. Besides, they always choose death traps like this to conduct their business. The conversation among the figures left Michael with even more questions. The enigmatic artifact, the angels serving gods, and the intricate dynamics of their dealings intrigued him. I'm heading to Oceania after this mission, hoping Lord Ethos blesses me with a safe voyage to my homeland, Gadden mentioned, revealing his future plans. Michael's attention was riveted to the group as he continued to observe them through the drone's camera feed. A small, glimmering object caught his eye, hanging around their necks like a pendant. Hey, what's that glow? Kane inquired, his sharp sight picking up on the unusual radiance. Michael swiftly took control of the drone, guiding its mechanical arms to extend from its body. With focused intent, he directed the drone in a lightning-fast descent, deftly snatching the glowing object from around the man's neck. A shout of surprise erupted from the man who felt the sudden tug, his panic fueled by the sand-filled gusts of wind obscuring his vision. Unaware of the drone's presence, he scrambled in confusion. Gadden, I lost the protection, the man cried out, his voice a mix of panic and shock. The group sprang into action, spurred by the urgency in their comrade's voice. What? Gadan's exclamation was a mix of disbelief and concern. HEL. The man's plea was abruptly silenced, a chilling scene unfolding before Michael's eyes. Through the drone's lens, he witnessed the colossal Sand Emperor surge from the desert floor, obliterating the ruin in its path. The unfortunate man who had lost his protection charm was consumed by the Sand Emperor's gaping maw, and the structure crumbled as the beast emerged. The Sand Emperor's roars reverberated through the air as it plunged back into the sand, only to erupt forth once more in a relentless sequence. The ruin's remnants were devoured, and the beast's tumultuous movements created a swirling vortex of sand, a testament to its wrath. Alarmed by the unfolding chaos, Michael skillfully maneuvered the drone away from the Sand Emperor's fury, ensuring its safety. Unbelievable, Ayag gasped, his astonishment evident. They were relying on that charm for protection from the monster, Sarba deduced, understanding the significance of the glowing pendant. A touch of empathy welled up within Michael as he mused. I can't help but feel a bit sorry for them. Ayag's response was more callous, reflecting his perspective. Nah, seems like these guys were bandits of this world. In my opinion, we just did this realm a favor. With the drone safely back in his control, Michael inspected the retrieved item closely. Suspended from the silver chain was a pendant fashioned in the shape of an eagle, its intricacies catching the light. I'm sensing strong energy radiation from this pendant, Sarba remarked. System, scan this pendant. Michael instructed the system. The system is unable to complete the task without the purchase of a skill for artifact analysis, costing 500,000 badass points, the system replied. Buy it, Michael decided promptly. In this new world without Gaia or Lord information, he needed the skill for artifact analysis. A pang of discomfort surged through his brain as the new skill, Analyzer Utility Function, was etched into his consciousness. Congratulations to the host for acquiring Analyzer Utility Function. Scanning initiated. A peculiar dark mist enveloped the pendant's chain, visible only to Michael's eyes. The item is a custom-made pendant containing a trace amount of grace. It possesses the capability to generate a protective barrier around the wearer, specifically effective against monsters and certain creatures in specific biomes, the system conveyed after analyzing the item. With this information, Michael tapped his armor twice, revealing a small compartment. Carefully, he placed the chain within the compartment, securing it around his neck. He wanted to avoid the risk of losing the pendant to an unexpected encounter, which could trigger the Sand Emperor's attention. What on earth are you up to? Ayag questioned. This pendant seems to have the power to ward off the Sand Emperor, Michael answered. Stepping forward, he prepared to ascend into the sky, but his intentions were promptly thwarted by Ayag and Sarba. Wait. First, are you sure? Second, don't we need it? Ayag interjected, expressing his concerns. Let's put it to the test, Michael responded with a chuckle, though his antics prompted Vidora's protests. Bastard! Don't toy with our lives, Ayag chastised, quickly lowering her voice to a whisper, fearful that their words might carry to the Sand Emperor's ears. With the reassurance of the protective barrier from the pendant, Michael confidently pressed forward, his armor now concealed beneath a long brown coat and jacket. Vidora nestled safely within his inner robe pocket. Whoever crafted this chain must possess considerable power. Even Marley wasn't aware of its capabilities. Michael whispered to Vidora. Shh! Keep your voice down, Sarba cautioned. Michael's teasing continued, aimed at Vidora's caution. Look at you three, a mighty hydra cowering in fear of a centipede. We're not at full power yet, you jerk. We're not foolish enough to take on such a colossal monster. Ayag retorted with a growl. Enough complaining, Ayag. This item envelopes me in a barrier, protecting us from the Sand Emperor's senses, Michael explained. As he soared through the sky, Michael observed the Sand Emperor repeatedly emerging from the desert's depths and retreating back into the sand. Its presence remained oblivious to Michael, just as the system's scan had predicted. During his flight, he noticed a marble temple rising from the desert. What's that? Ayag peered out, spotting the temple. Could that be where the divine portal is? Sarba questioned. Unless the map's wrong, this isn't where the divine portal should be, Michael replied. We should investigate inside, Ayag suggested to Michael. Why not? Michael shrugged, redirecting his course toward the temple. Within minutes, Michael reached the temple's entrance and stepped inside cautiously. As he ventured further, his attention was captivated by a statue portraying a figure with the upper body of a woman and the lower body of a serpent. Gazing at the statue's face, Michael found himself stunned. "Gaia?" he uttered in disbelief, having no idea that he had stumbled upon the Temple of Gaia, the goddess of all monsters. Chapter 1060. Someone from Earth? All right, that statue does resemble Gaia, but what kind of temple is this? Ayag asked, his curiosity piqued by the statue's likeness to the goddess. With cautious steps, Michael entered the temple, taking in the flickering candlelight that cast an eerie glow over the space. Despite the darkness, the temple appeared immaculately maintained. "Who leaves flowers here?" Michael mused aloud, plucking a lotus blossom from where it lay at the statue's feet. "Search the area. See if we can find any information about this temple," Kane suggested, Fedora's 3 heads swiveling to scan the surroundings. "Over there," Sarba suddenly pointed out, his gaze fixed on a wooden plank affixed to the temple wall. Curious, Michael approached the plank and read its inscription aloud, his surprise evident in his tone. "This is the temple of the goddess of all monsters. Pray to her for great goddess Gaia's protection from all monsters." It seems the previous Gaia had her temples scattered across this realm, Michael speculated. As he spoke, Michael activated his X-ray vision, scanning the temple for concealed doors or mechanisms. During his search, he noticed a small recess at the base of the statue. Returning to where he had plucked the flower, he squatted down. Michael pressed his hand onto the statue's base, seeking some hidden mechanism or reaction. Ayag, Sarba, and Kane observed with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. "What's your plan?" Ayag inquired. "I sense something inside," Michael replied, his tone indicating his focus. "Then break it open," Ayag suggested matter-of-factly. "When has that ever worked?" Sarba chimed in, his tone slightly exasperated. Taking a closer look, Michael discovered a small hole in the statue's base. The hole was almost concealed beneath accumulated sand and dust. After blowing away the debris, he carefully inserted his finger into the opening. "Sticking your finger into an unknown hole, great idea," Ayag quipped sarcastically. Amid the banter, Michael suddenly let out a shout. "Ouch!" Ayag's eyes widened in surprise, almost jumping at the sudden exclamation. But her shock turned into annoyance as she realized Michael was laughing at her reaction. "Why are you being such a jerk?" she growled, angrily nipping at Michael's ear. However, Michael's laughter subsided as he felt a sharp sting on his finger, akin to a needle prick. A drop of his blood fell into the opening, prompting a slight tremor beneath the statue. A portion of the ground slid aside, revealing a worn parchment. "What's this?" Michael wondered, brushing away the dust before carefully unfolding the parchment. "If you're reading this letter, you've stumbled upon one of the hidden letters we placed in the temples of Gaia. We must confess, this is just an elaborate prank. We were dreadfully bored while constructing this temple, so we decided to amuse ourselves by creating a secret chamber and leaving this note. There are more of our letters scattered throughout the realm. Collect them all and you'll have quite the tale to tell. Cheers." Michael read aloud, his voice a mix of disbelief and amusement. As Michael finished reading the letter, Ayag's frustration was palpable in her words. "Seriously, everyone in this world seems like an asshole or a jerk. What a waste of time. I actually thought we'd find something meaningful here." Ayag grumbled in annoyance. Meanwhile, Fedora noticed Michael's unwavering gaze on the letter, his brows furrowed in thought. "He seems to have found something we didn't," observed Sarba, waiting for Michael to explain. Michael's attention was fixed on the letter as he spoke up, revealing his findings. "This letter, it's made to look ancient, but it isn't. It was placed here about 3 years ago, give or take," Michael revealed after analyzing the letter with his newly acquired skill. "What's even more intriguing is that this letter contains Morse code," Michael continued. "What's Morse code?" Ayag inquired. "It's a method of communication that uses combinations of dots and dashes to represent letters, numbers, and symbols. Dots are short signals while dashes are longer ones. Each character is encoded using a unique combination of these dots and dashes, forming a message. Cain explained the concept, his knowledge surprising both Ayag and Sarba. "Where did you learn this?" Sarba asked Cain. "During the time you two were asleep, arguing about who would win in a fight between Trista and Lenora," Cain shared with a hint of amusement. "You're such a nerd." Ayag couldn't help but chuckle. "Okay, so you're saying there might be a hidden message in this? So what does it say?" Sarba redirected the conversation before it could turn into another Ayag-Cain banter. "It decodes to get to the God of Darkness temple in Misty Swamp." Michael unveiled the true message hidden within the code. Unless someone suddenly became a Morse code expert in this world, the person who left this message is likely from Earth. Michael's tone turned serious. While he had met Hunter from Earth, he was in a different universe entirely, and he wasn't one to leave cryptic messages. "Let's focus on rescuing Marlis worshippers first, and then we can head to the Misty Swamp," Michael concluded, rising to his feet, ready to leave the temple. Just as Michael was about to step outside the temple, a sudden rush of 5 men entered, catching his attention. These newcomers were dwarves, characterized by their stocky builds, long beards, and battle axes slung across their backs. "Look who we've got here," announced the leading dwarf, his face adorned with a scar that ran across his cheek. He pointed a grubby finger in Michael's direction. Michael surveyed them, his gaze lingering on the protective chains around their necks. He couldn't help but notice the familiarity of those chains. "Have we crossed paths before?" Michael inquired, though his eyes betrayed a hint of wariness. "Never met, but you sure managed to make someone real mad. They put quite the bounty on your head," growled the dwarf leader, his tone oozing hostility. Michael was taken aback. After all, he had only arrived in this world a day ago. "Trust me, I know if I made someone that mad." "I think you've got the wrong guy," Michael calmly responded, seeking to defuse the situation. "Nah, we're pretty sure. You're a human, not exactly easy on the eyes, and you've got a Hydra as your buddy?" The leader dwarf chuckled. "Hey, there you go, admitting I'm not ugly," Michael quipped. "Wait, are you guys not surprised to see a Hydra?" Ayag interjected, her voice tinged with confusion. "Not really. We've seen those scholar types bring back all sorts of endangered species." Another dwarf, who wore glasses, chimed in matter-of-factly. "N0 Velisp. C0M bring back?" Ayag's astonishment was palpable. Yet the thought of someone attempting to artificially create her noble race stirred both hope and anger within her. "Listen, dwarves, I'm not really in the mood for games right now. Normally, I might just give you a good beating because you all look kinda cute. But today, I'm in the mood for some bloodshed. So tell me who put that bounty on my head and get out of my sight." Michael issued his ultimatum, granting the dwarves an opportunity to retreat, even though he suspected they wouldn't take it. In their eyes, Michael didn't exude the aura of a god, thanks to Nithrol's medallion he wore. Seeing Michael as an easy target, the dwarves believed they could overpower and eliminate him without much effort. "Did you just call us cute?" Another dwarf bellowed, fueled by anger. "My apologies for my friend's rudeness. Instead of cute, he should have used the term motherfucking ugly." Ayag retorted, her words striking a nerve and igniting the dwarf's fury. "You're going to regret this, creature. Well, cut you down and feed your remains to the monsters out there," the leader dwarf threatened, his voice dripping with malice. "Wow, that's your best retort? You might want to work on your comebacks." "Learning is growing up," Sarba mocked, clearly unimpressed. "That's ice cold. Growing up," he says. "Ha ha ha." Ayag erupted in laughter, taunting the dwarves for their stature. "Kill them." The dwarves, unable to contain their rage any longer, charged at Michael with their battle axes raised high. Yet, as the leader dwarf closed in, Michael remained composed. With a deliberate motion, he activated the potion-spraying mechanism on his palm, releasing a paralyzing mist into the air. The leader dwarf unwittingly inhaled the mist and promptly froze in place, collapsing to the ground like a lifeless statue. Air, rendering the dwarves immobile one by one. With the dwarves now paralyzed, Michael approached Dogu. The Dogu! The other dwarves cried out, but their cries fell on deaf ears. Michael continued to disperse the paralyzing potion into the air, rendering the dwarves immobile one by one. With the dwarves now paralyzed, Michael approached Dogu, the leader of the group, and effortlessly lifted him by the neck. The dwarf was powerless to move, save for his eyes. Securing Dogu in one hand, Michael's other hand extended, a needle emerging from his palm. The needle found its mark in the dwarf's mouth, injecting an antidote that would restore his ability to speak, albeit temporarily. "What the heck did you do?" The dwarf's voice was a mixture of rage and astonishment. "I'll be the one asking questions here. If you don't answer, I'll remove this." Michael's fingers played with the silver chain, his tone resolute. "No, no, no, please." The dwarf's panic was palpable. He understood that removing the chain would expose them to the Sand Emperor's danger. "Who placed the bounty on my head?" Michael's inquiry was sharp. "How would we know? We just came across a poster with your description and whereabouts." The dwarf responded. "Where did you come across this poster?" Michael probed further. "Birmian City," came the dwarf's answer. "Where's that?" Ayag's voice chimed in. The dwarf appeared somewhat bewildered by the question. After all, Birmian City was the sole settlement in the Vikan Desert. It stood at the desert's edge, safeguarded from the monster-infested regions. "North from here," the dwarf replied. While Michael continued his questioning, his sharp eyes caught a glimmer on one of the buttons adorning the dwarf's leather armor. Picking up the button, he discerned tiny, nearly invisible runes etched onto it. A hidden camera? Michael's surprise was evident. Once again, he was caught off guard by the presence of concealed surveillance. Lifting the button to his face, he addressed the camera directly. "To whoever's watching, know this, I'm coming for you." With that, he crushed the camera, his analyzer confirming that the feed source couldn't be traced. Chapter 1061 Angels of the Gods. "What are you gonna do?" Dogu, the dwarf leader, questioned Michael, his tone a mix of defiance and curiosity. Michael offered no response to Dogu's inquiry. Instead, he unceremoniously tossed the dwarf outside, treating the others with similar disdain, kicking them out of the temple as if they were inanimate objects. They landed in the sand outside the temple with a dull thud, their immobilized bodies barely able to react. As Michael emerged from the temple, he stretched his neck audibly, preparing for what came next. "You bastard! Give us the antidote!" Dogu's shout resonated, but Michael continued his course of action, tying the paralyzed dwarves together with swift and precise movements. "Do you like flying?" Michael inquired of Dogu, his words dripping with irony as the other dwarves struggled helplessly. All they could do was move their eyes, a stark contrast to the fluidity of Michael's movements. "What the fuck are you talking about?" the dwarf leader snapped, but before he could process it, he found himself lifted into the sky, tethered to the others. "Shit!" The scream escaped Dogu's lips in a high-pitched frenzy. The moment Michael nearly brushed the clouds, he released the rope that held the dwarves, leaving them to plummet. As they fell, the wind rushed against their faces. Dogu's cries filled the air, while the others could only experience the impending dread. Their lack of the protective chain became evident, and the inevitable outcome was clear. Michael, having distanced himself, witnessed the Sand Emperor emerge from the desert, its massive jaws devouring the diminutive figures. "Let's move," Michael declared calmly after the Sand Emperor had burrowed back into the dunes. "Is Birmian City marked on the map?" Ayag inquired. "No, but it's on our route to the divine portals," Michael replied, his gaze fixed on the map as he spoke. Eventually, Birmian City came into view on the horizon. The city was an extraordinary sight, nestled amidst the desert landscape. Its buildings were constructed from sand itself, an awe-inspiring example of melding architecture with the environment. Sand walls encircled the city, blending with the natural terrain, offering protection against the harsh desert winds. Torches flickered, casting a warm glow that danced across the sandy streets, illuminating the night as Michael approached. We should touch down and proceed on foot, Vidora advised before curling into Michael's coat pocket. We really need to find a solution for your appearance. They'll have to remember to brew a transformation potion for you, Michael remarked as he gently landed on the sandy ground. I'm curious about what those dwarves said. Creating our species artificially? How is that even possible? Iag inquired, seeking Michael's thoughts. Given the right resources, knowledge, and time, almost anything can be achieved. We'll look into it later. For now, let's spend the night in the city, gather information about this realm, and then head towards the divine portals, Michael decided as he set off towards the city. Walking the path to the city, Michael was taken aback by the absence of guards, a surprise in itself. As he stepped inside, he noticed the bustling activity that unfolded before him. Yet oddly, not a single guard crossed his path. The city of Birmian sprawled before Michael, an intricate tapestry woven with sand and stone. Its buildings rose from the desert, constructed not from conventional materials but from the very sand beneath his feet. The structures blended with the environment, a testament to the resilience of the city's inhabitants. As Michael walked through the bustling streets, conversations reached his ears, snippets of discussions that painted a clearer picture of this realm. Did you hear the latest news about the war between Raynar and Cronar? One person in the crowd asked another, their voices filled with a mix of curiosity and concern. Yeah, it's been escalating. Some say Raynar's forces managed to secure another territory. The second person replied, shaking their head. And what about the worshippers of Agra? A third voice chimed in, worry etched in their tone. I heard they're preying on those fleeing the war. People trying to escape are being killed or robbed. True, it's becoming a nightmare. Those Agra worshippers believe that the chaos from the war feeds their god's power, the first person said, their voice tinged with fear. In the bustling streets, Michael's ears caught fragments of conversations drifting through the air. Seeking guidance, he approached a local resident and inquired, Excuse me, could you point me to a place where I could stay for the night? Perhaps a tavern? Sure thing, the man replied, gesturing ahead. Just head straight and take the first left. You can't miss the Sandcastle Tavern. Following the given directions, Michael found himself walking alongside a small group of people who were headed in the same direction. As he turned at the indicated corner, a distinctive cone-shaped structure loomed into view, crafted from sand and crowned with a wooden sign that read Sand Castle. Entering the tavern, Michael was enveloped by its warm atmosphere. The interior was adorned with an array of candle holders and torches that cast a gentle glow across the room. The air was thick with the scent of ale and the sound of animated chatter filled the space. Amidst the lively crowd, Michael was drawn to an empty seat next to a hooded man. Michael settled into the vacant seat and promptly caught the attention of a red-haired young waiter despite the bustling surroundings. What can I get you? Our special tonight is roasted lamb chops with freshly brewed ale, the waiter offered. I'll take the special, Michael replied, prompting a nod from the young man before he disappeared into the crowd. Amidst the hubbub of conversation, Michael overheard snippets discussing the ongoing war and its toll on the realm. A particularly vocal drunkard complained about the escalation, while another cautioned against speaking ill of the Pantheon. Others joined in, expressing their collective desire for the conflict to end, blaming the Agra worshippers for profiting from the chaos. As the topic turned to Agra worshippers, Michael mentally noted their apparent role in the realm strife. While listening, he received his mug of ale from the young man, who informed him that his food would follow shortly. Thank you, Michael acknowledged, his gaze remaining on the scene. Suddenly, his expression shifted to a frown as he sensed a formidable presence coalescing around the tavern through his environmental awareness. These powerful entities were closing in from all directions with astonishing speed. Suddenly, before anyone could react, the wooden door exploded into splinters as a group of men clad in gleaming white armor burst into the tavern. Their entrance was accompanied by the cacophony of gunshots, as they ordered everyone to freeze. N0 V lose B. C0M nobody move. Stay where you are. One of the armored men shouted, his voice sharp and commanding. The patrons inside the tavern were shocked by the abrupt intrusion, their initial chatter giving way to startled shouts. "Angels!" Someone yelled in disbelief. The group of intruders, unmistakably angels by their appearance, acted with swift authority. They pointed their weapons at the bewildered crowd, forcing them to drop to their knees in submission. Fear and panic were palpable in the air as people complied, their faces etched with terror. Michael's gaze locked onto the angels, taking in the feathery wings on their backs and the gleam of silver swords hanging at their waists. Their imposing presence and the gleaming armor marked them as formidable beings, and he remained still in his seat, carefully observing the unfolding scene while keeping his own abilities concealed. As the tense minutes passed, one of the angels approached Michael's table. With a stern expression, the angel forcefully pushed him and the man seated beside him to the ground, their bodies ending up on their knees. The pressure of the angel's hand on his shoulder was firm, leaving no room for resistance. Gradually, the scene repeated throughout the tavern, with the patrons being forced to kneel under the watchful eyes of the angels. Michael observed as the once lively atmosphere turned into one of complete submission. Fear was evident in the eyes of the people, who avoided making direct eye contact with the celestial beings that had invaded their space. Whispers of prayers and muted sobs filled the air as the angels established their dominance over the establishment. Michael remained vigilant, his instincts telling him that this encounter might have something to do with the events in the realm, possibly connected to the war between Raynar and Croner. After a tense silence, a figure clad in resplendent white armor entered the tavern, his heavy footfalls resounding like ominous drumbeats. The angel's golden wings marked him as distinct, and upon his arrival, the other angels snapped to attention, standing rigidly in his presence. "It has come to my attention that an Agra worshipper dwells among you." The angel with the glistening wings addressed the terrified patrons. His voice was measured, but an underlying current of deadly intent laced his words. The tavern's occupants exchanged fearful glances and hushed whispers at the angel's pronouncement. "Reveal the offender now, or all shall suffer the consequences. 100 innocent lives may be sacrificed, but not a single Agra worshipper shall escape retribution," the angel declared without any compassion. "If this world seems harsh, brace yourself for the realm of gods. There, things are far worse," echoed Nithrol's warning in Michael's thoughts. He kept his head lowered, concealing his godly identity. As his eyes flicked upward, he noticed the angel's gaze fixated on him. To Michael's dismay, the angel steadily advanced toward him. "There's a scent of impending death here," the golden-winged angel remarked, inhaling deeply as if savoring the air around Michael. A chuckle escaped the angel's lips, and he leaned in closer to Michael. "Ah, what do we have here? Word has it that you're bound for the divine portal. But do you think you can slip away unnoticed?" The angel's question dripped with taunting amusement as he unsheathed his sword with deliberate slowness. Internally sighing, Michael was utterly perplexed, unable to fathom how the angel had deduced his intentions. Suspicion even brushed against Marley, but he found it difficult to believe that she could have betrayed him. Chapter 1062 Smiting the Angels. The leader angel's demand hung heavily in the tense air, causing the tavern's patrons to shrink back in fear and silence. None dared to utter a word. With measured precision, the angel positioned his sword menacingly between Michael and the customer seated next to him. Michael's thoughts raced as he grappled with the angel's words. "What is he talking about?" he muttered to himself, bewildered by the situation. "Reveal the portal's location and I shall grant you swift death," the leading angel commanded. Michael's heavy sigh underscored his mounting frustration. He had hoped to find the divine portals, but this encounter revealed that the situation was far more complex. Someone had indeed concealed the portals, likely the very Agra worshipper this angel sought. Michael's mind raced to understand the how and why of it. The angel's voice grew sterner. "No answer, then?" He looked piercingly at Michael. A golden light began to envelop the angel's sword, and Michael braced himself for the confrontation. He intended to defend himself and counterattack, though he knew it would complicate his plan to gather more knowledge before engaging in battles. Unexpectedly, The hooded figure at Michael's side sprang into action, his voice an exasperated growl. A crimson-red beam shot forth, striking the angel's chest and sending him hurtling through the crowd. The turn of events surprised Michael, as the other angels scrambled to respond. "Kill the Agra worshipper!" they cried in unison, launching themselves toward the hooded figure. "Come with me if you want to live!" The hooded figure's voice resonated in Michael's mind. As the other angels closed in from all sides, the hooded figure deftly retrieved an object from his pocket, tossing it to the ground. The resulting explosion enveloped them in a thick red smoke. Within the swirling haze, a hand landed on Michael's shoulder, and the world around him seemed to warp and twist. In the span of an instant, the tavern scene and its cacophony vanished, replaced by the barren desert as Michael found himself alongside the hooded figure. A puzzled furrow settled on Michael's brow. Did he just pull us into his mess? Iag's voice, emanating from Michael's pocket, was tinged with concern. Michael wasted no time. "Who are you?" he inquired. The hooded figure gradually revealed himself, fiery red hair cascading from beneath the hood, and crimson eyes locking onto Michael's gaze. A small flame mark adorned his forehead, marking his allegiance to the god Agra. But the figure wasn't done. "The real question is, who are you?" he retorted. Michael maintained his composure as the hooded individual pressed on. "Your reaction to the angel's sword was intriguing, or rather, your lack of reaction. Only a seasoned killer would face that sword without fear. It's a rarity in this world. You didn't even flinch. So who are you?" The figure's keen observation skills took Michael aback. "I might just be someone who didn't want to be caught in your troubles." Michael shot back, folding his arms. The figure shook his head. "No, you're someone in search of the divine portals. Your curiosity was evident when the angel mentioned them. The glimmer in your eyes gave you away." The depth of the figure's insight left Michael genuinely surprised. "We can be allies," the Agra worshipper suggested. "N0 Velisp. C0M." Michael's skepticism was palpable. "And why should I believe you can be of any assistance, let alone that I'd willingly step into your mess with the angels?" he countered. "Because there's something different about you," the Agra worshipper replied. Before Michael could reply, he sensed a distortion in the air around him. "They're coming," Sarba whispered through their mental link, detecting an impending teleportation. True to Sarba's premonition, a portal materialized next to Michael and the Agra worshipper. The cerulean whirlpool shimmered as the angels who had stormed the tavern emerged from its depths. An Agra worshipper and his follower. The lead angel sneered, the mask and helmet still obscuring his face, though his contempt for the worshipper was evident. "You didn't strike me as the devotee of such a vile god," the lead angel remarked, his gaze shifting to Michael. "Because I'm not," Michael replied calmly. "Intriguing," the angel mused, stroking his chin. He then redirected his attention back to the red-haired Agra worshipper. The angels behind the leader sprang into motion, materializing behind Michael and the Agra worshipper. Swift kicks to their knees forced both of them down onto the sand, rendering them defenseless. "Your feeble attempt to evade us is laughable. A mere teleportation portal won't shield you from our grasp. It wounds me that you believed you could elude us." The lead angel sneered as he approached the Agra worshipper, delivering a resounding slap across his face. "Theo, we shall escort these two to His Grace Raynar's temple and purify their souls." Another angel, firmly gripping the Agra worshipper's shoulder, suggested. "Agreed. However, we must first extract the whereabouts of the divine portals from him. His Grace desires their location." Theo, the lead angel, concurred. "I won't utter a word," the Agra worshipper retorted defiantly. "Yes, I am aware. Followers of Agra can withstand any torment inflicted upon them, a unique trait of serving that vile god. But what about your companion here?" Theos' gaze shifted to Michael, his tone calculated. "I've never seen him before in my life," Michael maintained, irritation simmering beneath his surface due to the angels and the Agra worshipper. "Stay strong, buddy. We'll get through this. Don't let these jerks intimidate you." The Agra worshipper reassured Michael, employing a cunning ploy to mislead the angels into believing they were allies. Unbelievable, Iag hissed, her vexation evident. Michael caught onto the Agra worshipper's ruse and his sly grin. But when Theo turned his attention back to Michael, the grin faded, replaced by a counterfeit rage. "Don't you dare lay a finger on him," the Agra worshipper erupted. Theos' facade shifted from anger to amusement with a devilish chuckle. "Which part of your friend do you cherish most? Personally, am quite fond of cutting what lies between his legs. But let's begin with his fingers," he remarked, exuding a sinister demeanor. "Take a look at him. Does he really seem like my friend?" Michael interjected, realizing the crafty maneuver the Agra worshipper was attempting. As Theo turned to scrutinize Michael, the smile melted away, quickly replaced by a veneer of faux anger. "Don't think for a second you can manipulate us," Theo hissed under his breath. "Fucking idiots," Iag whispered, her frustration palpable. Theo advanced slowly toward Michael, while the angel behind him seized Michael's hand and elevated it. "Agra is watching all of this, you bastard. He will come to my aid. Remember the might of the god Agra," the Agra worshipper exclaimed defiantly. "No, he won't," the angel retorted, producing a golden orb with a deft motion. With a toss, the orb settled onto the sandy ground, forming a shimmering golden dome around them. "You're now severed from teleportation and barred from utilizing any powers granted by your loathsome god. Agra can offer you nothing," Theo taunted. "In truth, no deity can provide refuge," Theo added with a mocking laugh. Meanwhile, Michael hastily instructed his analyzer to evaluate the golden orb. "This item is an energy disruptor. It will obstruct all surveillance and halt energy flow through its barrier. It can also conceal your divine aura if you choose to employ your powers. However, this item has a one-time use limit," the system analyzer conveyed to Michael. Unbeknownst to the angels and Theo, they had unwittingly encased themselves with a god. Their intention was to isolate the Agra worshipper and thwart any intervention from the deity Agra. "We shall commence with his pinky, savoring the process," Theo remarked, positioning a dagger over Michael's pinky finger. "I always seem to find myself in trouble when I attempt to avoid it," Michael sighed. Theo was taken aback, expecting Michael to scream and plead for help. Instead, Michael appeared composed and sighed. "Just so you know, I was being truthful. I had never met him before," Michael stated calmly. "Stay strong, brother," the Agra worshipper shouted, maintaining the pretense of camaraderie between himself and Michael. "You don't need to pretend any longer," Michael remarked. "I've had enough of this," Theo snickered, thrusting his dagger at Michael's pinky. However, the dagger chipped upon failing to pierce Michael's skin. The angels and Theo were stunned. But before they could react, the golden dome began to darken. "What in the hell?" The angel restraining Michael grumbled as Michael defied the force on his shoulder, rising to his feet despite the angel's efforts. In an instant, Michael seized Theo by the neck, crushing it and shattering Theos' metal mask. But before Michael could finish Theo, the two angels behind him attempted to stab him with their holy swords. Swiftly, Michael hurled Theo aside and evaded the attacking angels. With fluid motion, he drew two dark swords from behind and severed the angels' hands in a matter of seconds, causing them to scream in agony. Without hesitation, Michael lunged forward, beheading the angels. Disregarding the system notifications, he dispatched the two celestial beings in the blink of an eye. As Michael turned, blood splattered across his face, leaving an ominous stain. The Agra worshipper and Theo finally comprehended that Michael was neither a mere killer nor a mortal, but a god. You're a god," Theo mumbled in absolute shock. The remaining four angels promptly materialized behind Theo, positioning themselves against Michael. They released the Agra worshipper from their grip, recognizing the greater threat at hand. "I thought angels were supposed to embody goodness and kindness," Michael snickered, using his wrist to wipe the blood off his face. "Guess I was mistaken," Michael commented. "How can a god be present here? What god are you?" Theos' voice rang out, That's a question whose answer you won't discover in this lifetime, Michael responded calmly. Simultaneously, within the golden dome, darkness engulfed the space, rendering it pitch black. The Agra worshipper inched away, horrified by the angel's screams and the cacophony of blades slicing through both metal and flesh. The sickening sounds of blood spraying and the metallic tang of the scent filled the air, overwhelming his senses. Chapter 1063 Cultivation Realms. In the realm of gods. As the darkness within the golden dome dissipated, the Agra worshipper gazed at Michael with a mixture of fear and shock in his eyes. He realized something was off about the man, but the revelation that he was a god caught him entirely off guard. Now that you've dragged me into your mess, are you going to tell me where to find the divine portals? Michael inquired calmly, moving toward the Agra worshipper, whose attention was fixed on the lifeless forms of the decapitated angels. We never properly introduced ourselves. Let's start with your name, Michael proposed, extending his hand to help the Agra worshipper to his feet. Despite his astonishment, Darth grabbed the god's hand and stood up. I am Darth, the Agra worshipper replied. I am Ghost, and your continued existence hinges on your discretion regarding what transpired here, Michael stated to Darth with a reassuring smile. An unsettling shiver ran down Darth's spine in response. Now, shall we head to where you've concealed the divine portals before more angels appear? Michael queried, observing the fading flicker of the golden dome. He knew its effects were about to wane. Accordingly, he directed his hand outward, unleashing a stream of dark flames that swiftly reduced the angels to ashes. Darth felt the temperature surge dramatically, causing him to break into a sweat. The bodies were soon reduced to ash, and the temperature normalized once the dark flames subsided. Darth nodded, rendered nearly speechless by the presence of such a formidable god. As the dome's remnants vanished entirely, Michael began to walk away from the scene, and Darth followed by his side. I never anticipated that the goddess of luck, Fortuna, would come to my aid by sending a god, Darth confided as they walked. So, you used to be a worshipper of Agra, Michael remarked, seeking to delve deeper into Darth's knowledge of the world. I was, but am out of that game now. I'm a drifter, unbound to any god, Darth revealed. That sounds like quite a situation. So, what's your plan? Considering the angels won't leave you be, and it seems Agra won't be rushing to your aid anytime soon. Michael continued the conversation, adopting a guise of someone familiar with the world. Darth had knowledge about the world's workings, and Michael needed to gather more insights from him. I'm heading to the infinite ocean. The divine portals will serve as my means to get there. I can escape this wretched place and live out the rest of my days on the ocean, fulfilling a dream of mine, Darth explained. But if the angels believed you found and concealed the divine portals, why didn't you use them to leave instead of returning to Birmian City? Michael inquired. I needed to say my farewells to someone I hold dear. With that done, I can depart this realm in peace, sighed Darth. Your journey would have been a lot less peaceful if you hadn't crossed paths with me, Michael retorted with a smirk. True, fortune has shown me favor, Darth replied. However, luck won't suffice to keep you safe unless you reveal the location of the hidden portals. I need them to reach Nimbosia, Michael stated firmly. You can use them to reach your desired destination. I wish you luck. You'll need it once the Pantheon catches wind of a rogue god wandering about, Darth said as they continued their journey across the desert. You managed to kill Raynar's angels, but don't underestimate the ones the Pantheon will send. They'll be far more formidable, each at or above the elemental attunement realm, Darth warned. Michael mentally noted the cultivation realm levels of the angels and used this as an opportunity to learn more about the hierarchy of power in this world. He recognized that in this world, no matter how advanced the mortal's cultivation, they paled in comparison to the gods. Still, the cultivation realms of the angels determined their capacity to withstand a god's power. For example, only higher-level angels could survive merging their energy with their patron god's trace of grace. In this case, Theo was at the spiritual embryo realm, where cultivators form a spiritual embryo within their dantian, a seed of potential power. This level was the third in a 9-tiered cultivation hierarchy. Therefore, Theo could only endure a level 3 God's trace of grace. In essence, the angels' cultivation realm determined their ability to absorb and withstand a God's grace. Could you refresh my memory on your mortal's cultivation realms? Michael inquired, pretending ignorance while secretly seeking more insight. Darth, sensing something peculiar about the god beside him, no longer attempted to manipulate the situation. We have the Initiate Realm, Chi Awakening Realm, Spiritual Embryo Realm, Elemental Attunement Realm, Celestial Resonance Realm, Soul Ignition Realm, Ethereal Fusion Realm, Void Transcendence Realm, and Divine Ascendancy Realm, Darth listed. Michael mentally cataloged this information about the realm hierarchy for the inhabitants of this world. In truth, only a select few devout worshippers or those favored by the gods could even achieve the Initiate Realm. The majority of the population remained powerless, and some who had reached the celestial stage in the mortal realm, upon ascending, were stripped of their powers and memories, reborn as mere weaklings. As Michael continued walking, he recalled the words Marley had shared with him regarding the hierarchy of godhood in the realm of gods. The stages are fledgling god, demigod, celestial god, ethereal god, astral god, elder god, primordial god, transcendent god, and ancient god. Though it's said that the ancient god level has become a myth, as no one, not even the gods of the pantheon, has managed to reach that pinnacle. As we approach the portals, we can part ways, Darth stated, breaking the silence that had enveloped them. Have you been to Nimbosia? Michael inquired of Darth. Yeah, a couple of times. It's a mess up there. Since you don't seem to be in the pantheon, I'd advise against going there. Raynar can be even crazier than Agra at times. I genuinely feel sorry for the people under the rule of the God of Rain. Darth sighed, showing his empathy for those under the dominion of Raynar. Curiosity was piqued. Isn't it obvious? You just took down Raynar's angels. Angels of a why do you assume I'm not from the pantheon? Michael's curiosity was piqued. Isn't it obvious? You just took down Raynar's angels, angels of a pantheon god. It's rare for anyone in the pantheon to kill another god's angels. Angels from one god killing those of another has happened, but gods directly killing angels of another god. That's not something I've heard of, Darth explained. As Michael and Darth continued their journey towards the divine portals, Michael gained more insights into the realm of gods from Darth's perspective. However, Darth was unaware of the peculiar phenomenon preventing gods from venturing outside their domains, a topic Michael was keen to explore. N0 v LUSB. C0M, if you don't mind my asking, why are you heading to Nimbosia? Inquired Darth. I'm taking a vacation and exploring the world, Michael responded with a wry smile. Darth realized that Michael wouldn't reveal his true purpose for visiting Nimbosia. He had no interest in anything beyond getting rid of Theo and his angels. Now that they were out of the picture, Darth's focus was on reaching the infinite ocean and starting anew there. What if Agra sends his angels to punish you for abandoning your devotion to him? Michael asked, probing the consequences of forsaking a god's worship. I hope he won't until I reach the infinite ocean. Once I'm there, no one can catch me, Darth explained. Why is that? Michael inquired. Darth was once again taken aback by the god's lack of knowledge. Nonetheless, he chose to share information until they reached the location of the hidden divine portals. The infinite ocean earned its name for a reason. Moreover, the gods hold no sway over the ocean. It's a forbidden zone, Darth clarified. As they conversed, they ascended a sand dune and beheld the oasis in the distance. The lush appearance of the oasis offered a stark contrast to the surrounding desert. Is that where you've hidden the portals? Michael asked Darth. Darth nodded. With a relieved sigh, Michael and Darth made their way towards the oasis. Despite its apparent lack of inhabitants, Michael remained vigilant, his senses on high alert. Allow me some time to dispel the illusions. Once they're gone, I'll activate the portals, and you can use one to reach Nimbosia, Darth instructed Michael. Sounds like a plan, Michael responded. As the oasis drew closer, Michael's excitement grew. The realm of gods held both challenges and opportunities that he was eager to explore. How much time do you need to dispel the illusions? Michael inquired. 10 minutes should suffice, replied Darth. Approaching the oasis, Michael squatted down to splash his face with the cool water. The refreshing sensation of the water against his skin revitalized him. Can we really trust this guy? Ayag's voice whispered from his coat pocket. Absolutely not, and we don't need to. Once we have the portal, we'll go our separate ways, Michael replied. I think we should eliminate him, suggested Ayag. No, I suspect he has some tricks up his sleeve. We shouldn't make more enemies in this world until we understand the situation better, Michael explained. While washing his face, Michael glanced at his reflection in the clear water. But his attention was quickly drawn to something else. In the sky, a fiery and brilliant object streaked through, rapidly approaching them. Turning slowly, Michael saw what seemed like a shooting star heading straight for them. An uneasy feeling settled over him as he frowned, sensing that something was off. The shooting star grew larger and drew nearer. Damn it! Michael leaped into the oasis just as the fireball struck the sand nearby, triggering a powerful explosion. Emerging from the water, Michael observed a figure emerging from the aftermath of smoke and sand. The fiery ambience was accompanied by the heavy clank of armor, and a metallic scent of blood permeated the air. Agra wants to have a little chat with you, Darth. The figure's voice cut through the lingering smoke and sand. Michael's gaze shifted to Darth, who was gradually rising to his feet. He wants his favorite angel back. The figure's words were aimed directly at Darth. Chapter 1064 God Agra and his angels Larn. The word slipped from Darth's lips as he laboriously regained his footing. Meanwhile, Michael remained afloat in the oasis, his head above the water. Vidora's ability to breathe underwater had proved to be a life-saving advantage. Larn, the angel of God Agra, grabbed Darth by the neck, raising him off the ground. Unbeknownst to Michael, who could no longer discern the angel's cultivation levels in this unfamiliar world, Larn was at the celestial resonance realm, the 5th stage of cultivation. This meant he could absorb a fragment of level 5 God Agra's grace to gain a power boost. You can emerge from the water now, Larn's voice cut through, addressing Michael. With a sigh, Michael waded out of the water, his neck making a cracking sound as he stretched it. Who are you? A friend of Darth? Larn questioned, but Michael remained silent. I'm not going back to him, Larn. I've had enough of serving him, Darth growled, his voice heavy with anger and pain. Michael was taken aback by the revelation that Darth was actually an angel of Agra. Listening to Darth's words, Michael sensed a complex history between Agra and Darth. You sort out your matters. I just need the divine portals to reach Nimbosia, Michael interjected, his intentions clear. He wanted no involvement with Agra or the 2 angels before him. Silence, mortal! Larn's shout sent a powerful shockwave at Michael. Michael willed his protective shield not to react, allowing the shockwave to hurl him into the air. He needed to avoid using his powers to avoid alerting the pantheon of his presence. Unlike Theo and his angels, Larn didn't rely on artifacts to prevent godly intervention. Darth's gaze shifted between Michael and Larn, a glimmer of hope in his eyes for Michael to unleash his divine powers. However, Michael managed to restrain himself. Don't resist, Darth. Simply return to his grace and offer your apology. I'm sure he will find it in his heart to forgive his favored angel. Larn's words held an ironic edge, evident even to Michael. Darth's voice cracked through the air, carrying a determined no. He unleashed his power, a surge of energy enveloping him. With a fierce expression, he lunged forward, his fist connecting with Larn's chest. The impact sent Larn hurtling through the sand, creating a deep furrow in his wake. Larn rose from the sand, his excitement palpable. Ah, so you found your spine, Darth. Let's see what you can truly do, he taunted, his voice dripping with anticipation. Darth's eyes blazed with a fiery determination. He summoned his power and readied himself for a confrontation. Prepare yourself, Larn. I won't be controlled by Agra any longer, he declared. Waving his hand, Darth summoned an ethereal eagle formed of crimson-red energy. The magnificent creature materialized with grandeur, its wings outstretched as it let out a piercing cry that echoed through the desert. Larn's lips curled into a cruel smile. "Impressive, but let's see if your pet can match mine," he retorted, his own power surging. He summoned a crimson-red wolf with wings, a creature equally imposing and fierce. Both summoned creatures dashed at each other, a collision of ethereal forms. The crimson-red eagle's wings beat with power as it soared through the air, its talons poised to strike. The crimson-red wolf leaped with grace, its wings propelling it forward, teeth bared for battle. The eagle's feathers shimmered in the desert starlight, and its eyes glowed with an otherworldly intensity. With a flurry of movement, it clashed with the wolf. The sand beneath them trembled as their energies collided, creating ripples in the air. Darth's gaze remained unwavering as he controlled the movements of his summoned eagle. "Show him your strength," he whispered to his creation. Larn's laughter echoed as he guided his crimson-red wolf. "Come on, Darth. Is this the best you can do?" He taunted, his voice mocking. The fight raged on, each summon unleashing its own arsenal of attacks. The desert around them shook with their power, sand swirling in chaotic eddies. The clash of energies created bursts of light and sound that reverberated through the oasis. Darth's determination fueled the crimson-red eagle, each movement precise and calculated. The wolf matched its adversary with equal ferocity, teeth snapping and wings slashing through the air. The battle was a spectacle of raw power and intensity. Amidst the clash of summoned creatures, Darth's voice cut through the tumultuous air. "Agra is not a god. He's an evil entity that seeks nothing but death and destruction." His words reverberated with conviction, carried by the winds of the battle. Larn's retort was swift, his crimson-red wolf lunging at the eagle with renewed vigor. "And yet, you served that same entity without batting an eye. What's changed, Darth? Suddenly questioning the very being you once worshipped?" His voice held a mixture of scorn and amusement. "Landscape." Larn's taunts continued, his voice dripping with mockery. "Is this an amusement?" As the ethereal battle raged on, Michael watched from a distance with growing annoyance. The divine portals were within reach, yet the interruption by these angels continued to thwart his plans. He clenched his fists, his patience wearing thin. He wanted to end this conflict and secure the means to reach Nimbosia. Darth's anger and determination seemed to fuel his summoned eagle further. Its movements became more intricate, its attacks more strategic. The crimson-red wolf countered with equal fervor, each clash of energy sending shockwaves through the desert landscape. Larn's taunts continued, his voice dripping with mockery. "Is this the extent of your newfound defiance, Darth? Facing me, a loyal servant of Agra?" Darth's response was laced with unwavering determination. "You're blind to the truth, Larn. You're a puppet, blindly following a malevolent force. I won't be part of it any longer." The battle reached a crescendo, the clash of summoned creatures becoming a spectacle of power and will. Each creature's movements painted streaks of crimson energy across the desert sky, their clashes creating bursts of light that illuminated the landscape. Michael's annoyance grew with every passing moment. He couldn't afford any more delays, not when his presence in this realm was becoming more apparent to the Pantheon. He needed those divine portals, and he needed them now. Darth's voice broke through the chaos again, his words carrying a fierce determination. "Agra may have deceived me once, but I won't be his pawn any longer." Larn's laughter resonated, cutting through the battle's cacophony. "And what do you hope to achieve, Darth? Defeating me won't change your fate. You're marked by Agra. N0 vel USB. C0M. This Agra god seems like a big deal, Ghost." Ayag's voice sounded from within Michael's pocket. "Yeah, I have a feeling we might cross his path in the future," Sarba added. "I don't care. I need the divine portals, and this Larn guy is messing up my plans." Michael replied with a hint of frustration. "Well, you can't kill him without using your powers," Ayag pointed out. "True, but I can at least distract him. Maybe that'll give Darth an advantage," Michael planned, hoping a distraction would help Darth gain the upper hand in the battle. "Any time now." Michael was about to make his move when Darth's voice echoed through the chaos, causing him to pause. The ethereal eagle summoned by Darth appeared to be weakening, while the crimson-red wolf grew larger and more menacing due to Larn's connection to Agra. "Do you think your mortal friend can help you? How the mighty have fallen," Larn sneered. "You have no idea," Darth began, but before he could reveal Michael's true identity as a god, Michael intervened. "You two can continue this fight later. I'm just interested in the divine portals. Show them to me and I'll be on my way," Michael interjected, momentarily halting the battle. "Who's this guy? We're in the middle of a fight, and he looks like he's on vacation," Larn chuckled, his surprise evident. "Darth, you can't win against him. He's more powerful than you. So activate the portals," Michael suggested to Darth, prompting a spark of pride in Larn's eyes, and he smirked arrogantly. "Well, your mortal friend is correct, but it's a shame I won't be letting either of you go anywhere. You're both coming to meet his grace, and you—" Larn shifted his gaze from Darth to Michael. "You are going to die," Larn declared with a smug smile. "Activate the portals," Michael instructed Darth, and the battle between the eagle and the wolf continued. As the clash intensified, Michael used the distraction to kick sand towards Larn. However, the sand disintegrated upon reaching Larn, his power obliterating it. "Pathetic trick," Larn sneered, his hand emanating a crimson-red energy beam that he aimed at Michael. Yet, Michael swiftly raised his hand, revealing the black shield, which surprisingly absorbed the energy beams instead of shattering. A powerful artifact. Larn's eyes gleamed with greed, desiring the shield for himself. Simultaneously, Darth evaded Larn's attacks and seized hold of a solitary coconut tree on the oasis edge. His touch caused a golden light to flicker, manifesting beside the tree the portal. Larn's taunting voice broke the momentary stillness. "You're going nowhere," he jeered, his hand raised to strike. In response, the wolf lunged at the eagle, clamping its jaws around the eagle's neck. The golden eagle shattered into radiant fragments. The force of this shattered connection made Darth cough up blood and collapse to the ground. Larn prepared to target Darth with his energy beam, but before he could, Michael lunged forward and delivered a powerful punch to the angel's face. The impact sent Larn hurtling away with a resounding explosion. As Larn soared through the air, the wolf redirected its hostile attention to Michael, its eyes gleaming with aggression. "Get up and activate the portals," Michael shouted to Darth, preparing to confront the wolf. He unsheathed his dark swords with a deliberate, tense motion and cracked his neck. "You're the last obstacle before I reach Nimbosia," Michael declared, his frustration evident. "Just give me a moment," Darth uttered weakly, pulling himself together. Suddenly, the wolf emitted a fierce howl and lunged at Michael from above. "You want to defeat that creature without using your powers." Sarba's voice was tinged with anxiety as the wolf closed in. Just as the wolf was about to pounce on Michael, Fedora sprang out of Michael's pocket and perched on his head. In response, Iag surged forward and opened her mouth wide. The wolf bared its teeth, leaping at Michael with aggression. Simultaneously, Iag unleashed a powerful sonic wave with a resounding shout. Visible as a tangible force, the sonic wave streaked toward the wolf. The collision between the wave and the wolf created a burst of energy, throwing the creature backward and causing it to emit a pained growl. Observing the wolf's momentary setback, Michael noticed Larn beginning to rise, preparing to re-engage in the battle. "Come on, Darth, hurry," Michael urged, his voice laced with urgency. While the wolf growled and Larn approached, Michael's attention was drawn to a sudden appearance of a golden ring on the sandy ground. A palpable distortion in space emanated from it. "Oh no!" Larn's voice carried a mocking tone as he swiftly moved toward Michael and Darth, intent on preventing them from using the portal. "I can't hold them both off, Ghost." Iag's voice conveyed a sense of unease. As Larn closed in on them, he raised his hands, unleashing a rapid barrage of crimson-red energy beams aimed at Michael and Darth. Michael deflected the beams using his black shield, but he realized that he couldn't keep up this defense for long. If he truly aimed to halt Larn's advance, he would have to resort to his godly powers. Just a few more seconds. Darth's voice resonated behind Michael. Finish him off. Darth's words were driven by urgency, not knowing the reason behind Michael's hesitance to use his full powers. At last, Larn closed the distance to Michael, summoning a crimson-red spear from a space ring at his side. He's about to strike us down, Darth warned, the energy levels around them surging to dangerous heights. Michael knew that his black shield might not withstand the force of Larn's spear. Larn's shout echoed in the air as he thrust the spear toward Michael, aiming for a fatal blow. Summoning his resolve, Michael lifted his dark sword and channeled his power, sending forth a powerful bolt of dark lightning from the blade's tip. Larn's eyes widened in shock, but before he could react, the lightning pierced through his chest, sending him hurtling backward. He flew a considerable distance before crashing onto the sandy ground, at least 50 meters away. As Larn's body hit the ground, an eerie silence settled over the oasis. The use of Michael's power was accompanied by a resounding thunderclap and the sudden appearance of a crimson lightning streak in the otherwise clear night sky. "We need to leave," Michael stated, his gaze fixed on the ominous lightning streak above. Chapter 1065, A Quest from the System. As Michael and Darth plunged into the portal's embrace, he felt a powerful tug, like being torn through a vortex. Unlike the instant teleportation he was accustomed to in the mortal realm, this journey was more like traversing a bridge of light, a luminous passage that carried him alongside Darth. "So, you were one of Agra's angels?" Michael inquired during their journey. "That's a part of my life I'd rather leave behind," Darth responded, his voice carrying the fatigue from his battle with Larn. The backlash of Larn's attack had affected Darth due to the connection he shared with his summoned creature, the Golden Eagle. "I won't pry into the details, but you did drag me into your mess. If Agra's angels come hunting for me, you'll have to pay the consequences," Michael stated, his tone frigid. His purpose in the realm of gods was to strengthen himself and locate his seeds of darkness, not to make new enemies. "I apologize, but facing Agra was inevitable for you. Unless you have a penchant for death and destruction, you'll find yourself at odds with him sooner or later," Darth responded, his voice tinged with resentment towards Agra. "If you ever find yourself at the infinite ocean, perhaps we'll cross paths again. Don't worry, your secret of being a god is safe with me," Darth vowed, assuring Michael of his discretion. Michael could sense the honesty in Darth's gaze. A strong feeling stirred within Michael, hinting that their paths might converge again in the future. It seemed wise to spare Darth's life, as he could potentially become a valuable ally if they indeed clashed with Agra. "That's good. Now, how much longer until we reach the end of this bridge?" Michael inquired. "Just a few more minutes. It'll create a branching exit for you that leads to the outskirts of Nimbosia. Direct teleportation into the city is prohibited, so you'll need to make your way from the outskirts," Darth explained. "Understood," Michael acknowledged. As Darth inscribed glowing runes along the light bridge, Michael sensed the fabric of space shifting. Before long, a bright light emerged at the tunnel's end. "Your exit awaits," Darth shouted, pointing towards the light. "Good luck to you, and may you find what you're seeking in the infinite ocean," Michael conveyed before redirecting his trajectory towards the beckoning light. "May Fortuna's favor be with you." Darth bid him farewell as Michael vanished into the light. The brilliance swallowed Michael, whisking him away from the bridge and depositing him onto a muddy path. He collided face-first with the path's wet ground, the sounds of torrential rain overwhelming his senses. Abruptly, a resounding neigh filled the air, followed by a shout that pierced through the downpour. "Where the hell did you come from?" a voice exclaimed. "Do you have a death wish, you asshole? If you want to die, fall in front of another carriage," another voice yelled at Michael. Amidst the heavy rain, Michael slowly pulled himself up from the muddy ground, silently cursing the teleportation portal that had deposited him here. As he rose, he noticed a carriage hitched to 4 sturdy brown horses, with 3 drenched figures atop it. N0 VeluSB. C0M. The man in the center, gripping the reins, seemed to be in his early 40s and had a commanding presence. Flanking him were two younger brown-haired men, all dressed in wet, broad robes. "Get off the path," the man with the bald head ordered. "Can you direct me to Nimboja?" Michael wiped mud from his face and asked the trio. They appeared momentarily surprised. Then realization dawned on them. "You're a refugee?" the bald man inquired. "Yeah." Michael decided to go along with the man's assumption. "The carriage is full. If you're okay with it, you can sit on top of the carriage," one of the brown-haired men suggested. "That works for me," Michael quickly agreed. Surveying the area, he saw nothing but a long path cutting through grasslands and forests in the distance. Traveling with these three on the carriage seemed like a reasonable choice. "Hop on." One of the brown-haired men reached out and assisted Michael onto the carriage's roof. With a shake of the reins, the bald man urged the horses into a gallop along the muddy path. "So, where did you come from?" the bald man inquired. "Out of nowhere," the younger man beside him chimed in. "I bet he's from Thorndale," another man added before Michael could even speak. Michael's feigned surprise at their deduction seemed to amuse them. "How did you know?" Michael asked, pretending to be amazed by their keen observation. His tone flattered the three, eliciting proud smiles from them. "We've been shuttling refugees to and from Nimboja for months, so it's either you're from Nimboja or Thorndale. Your question about the direction gave it away," explained Billy, the bald man. "I'm Billy," he introduced himself. "Hey race Leon and Micah," Billy gestured to his companions. "How are things in Nimboja?" Michael inquired. "How are things in Thorndale?" Micah responded with a question. "Not good," Michael guessed, given the ongoing war between the two kingdoms. "Well, in Nimboja, things are worse. This rain is nothing compared to what falls within the kingdom. It's as if Raynar is punishing his domain for lack of devotion. Just last week, a group of orphan children drowned." Billy's voice carried a mix of anger and sadness. The news of orphan children's deaths struck a chord with Michael. Having been an orphan himself and having cared for children like that, he felt a surge of emotion. Blaming Raynar for their deaths, he silently labeled him as a villain. "Gods," Micah sighed. "Shut up, you fool. Don't mock the gods. May Fortuna shield your words from the pantheon and other deities," Billy admonished sternly, touching the medallion hanging from his neck. "What's your name?" Leon asked. "John." Michael offered a simple, common name. "Who do you pray for?" Billy inquired, showing his religious side. "Fortuna," Michael promptly replied, invoking the name of the goddess of luck. She seemed well known in this world, so Michael decided to use her name. Unbeknownst to them, they were traveling with a god. "Fellow Fortuna worshipper. Makes sense, as you met us instead of Agra's followers." Leon chuckled. "Shut up, Leon. Don't even mention that vile god's name. You'll bring bad luck upon us." Billy quickly silenced him and touched his medallion again. The mention of Agra's name instilled fear in their eyes, deepening Michael's curiosity about this deity. "Do you have any gold with you, John?" Micah suddenly inquired. "I do," Michael responded, pulling out a few gold coins from his pocket, assuming they were asking for payment. However, their surprise was evident as they saw the plain gold coins in Michael's hand. "What kind of gold coins are these?" "There's no crest or symbol on them," Billy observed. "It's raw gold," Leon added. Putting the gold coins back in his pocket, he realized that the realm used different currencies, prompting him to convert his gold coins. "John, you won't be able to use these anywhere. If I were you, I'd try one of the dwarven banks and exchange them for Nimboja currency," Micah advised. "I'll do that. Thanks for the heads up," Michael nodded. Putting the gold coins back in his pocket, he realized that the realm used different currencies, prompting him to convert his gold coins into something usable. Soon, the carriage entered a dense forest where the canopy offered some respite from the heavy rain. "Hey John, do you happen to have a sword or something to defend yourself?" Billy's sudden question took Michael by surprise. "Yes," Michael nodded. "Why do you ask?" Michael inquired. "Nothing. Just curious." Billy evaded, though his tone held a trace of fear. An eerie silence fell over the three of them as the sound of galloping horses grew louder. Michael remained quiet, his senses heightened. The forest appeared ordinary on the surface, like any he had seen in the mortal realm. Yet, Michael's heightened awareness alerted him to hidden hostiles. His keen sight allowed him to spot figures concealed behind trees and bushes, despite their attempts at hiding. "I have a bad feeling, Micah," Billis' voice quivered. Though he hadn't revealed to Michael, whom he knew as John, that rumors had circulated about Agra worshippers in this forest, he hoped they were mere rumors. These worshippers, known as vile bandits, wandered this realm without allegiance to any kingdom, driven solely by death and destruction to appease their god. In silence, Michael observed these hidden figures in the forest, anticipating their move. As expected, trees on either side of the path suddenly crashed down, startling the horses. Michael gripped the carriage tightly, holding his position. But Billy, Micah, and Leon were thrown off. Amidst the commotion, cries of babies and the panicked voices of refugees echoed from inside the carriage. Figures clad in pitch-black robes emerged from the forest, surrounding the carriage from all sides. "Stay still. Don't move." Their orders were accompanied by the glint of crimson-red blades. Suddenly, a robed figure leaped onto the carriage and kicked Michael off. Pretending to stumble and fall, Michael yielded control of the carriage to the Agra worshippers. From his vantage point, he saw refugees, clad in tattered clothes and clutching belongings in small pouches, emerging from the carriage. Babies were held tightly in their arms, trembling with fear and shock. "Agra has favored us. We're about to spill a lot of blood," one of the robed figures said with a sinister grin. With cautious movements, Michael lifted himself up from the ground as the Agra worshippers directed the refugees out of the carriage. The refugees were lined up and forced to kneel down alongside Michael. The refugees, their faces etched with shock and fear, cried out in a mixture of despair and desperation, pleading to the Agra worshippers to spare them. "Please, we're just innocent families. I have a baby. Please don't hurt her. Have mercy. We've lost everything." Tears streamed down their faces as they clung to one another, their voices trembling in terror. Their cries echoed in the forest, a heartbreaking chorus of anguish and vulnerability. The Agra worshippers, however, showed no sign of compassion. They reveled in the refugees' suffering, their laughter ringing with a cruel edge. "You think your pleas matter to us? Pathetic mortals. Your God won't save you now." The worshippers taunted and jeered, their eyes glinting with sadistic delight. One of them raised his blade high, the crimson-red steel reflecting the despair in the refugees' eyes. Billy, Micah, and Leon were dealt swift blows, their faces struck with punches and then thrown into the crowd. The Agra worshippers quickly snatched their weapons, disarming them. Michael managed to evade their attention since his weapons were concealed within his armor, and his simple brown robes masked his true identity. The worshippers forced the refugees to sit in a row on their knees, their faces etched with terror and confusion. "Let us go, you monsters. These are innocent people." Billis' voice rose in defiance. The worshippers only responded with mocking laughter, their faces twisted with sadistic amusement. "Expecting mercy from us, are you? Insolent fools," sneered one of the worshippers, a heavily built man with a brutish demeanor. "The host should start earning badass points by saving these refugees. You will need worshippers in the future, and this seems like a good place to start your godhood." Michael was taken aback when he suddenly heard a voice in his head, the system that urged him to earn badass points by saving the refugees, seeing it as a way to gather worshippers for his own future godhood. The burly man leading the worshippers paused, his attention drawn to a red-haired woman clutching her baby and a little girl close. His gaze lingered on her, his intentions disturbingly evident. He spoke with a perverse grin. "Agra would delight in me slaughtering you three." The man's gaze lingered on the red-haired woman, his intentions evident. Michael sat beside her, waiting for the right moment to unleash his power upon the Agra worshippers. Chapter 1066. God of Rain's kingdom. The Agra worshipper raised his sword, causing the woman to close her eyes and clutch her baby tightly. Beside her, the little girl's eyes squeezed shut in fear. "No!" Billis' voice cracked with desperation as he tried to intervene. But just as the sword seemed poised to strike, it froze mid-air. The Agra worshipper's wrist was held firmly by a young man seated beside the intended victim. Another Agra worshipper approached with a mocking snicker, ready to attack the young man. However, his kick landed on the young man's back with no effect. Under the young man's grip, the first worshipper's sword dropped, and the mother cautiously opened her eyes, observing the scene. She turned her gaze toward the young man, finding an unspoken reassurance in his eyes. Amidst the refugees, shock was palpable as the young man dared to confront the Agra worshippers. "Arg!" The worshipper in the young man's grip growled in pain. Simultaneously, the one who had kicked the young man cried out in agony, clutching his injured leg. The mother, now facing the other Agra worshipper, witnessed the gruesome sight of the man's twisted and bloodied leg. "I am not playing hero," the young man finally spoke as he rose to his feet. "I am playing God," he declared with a chilling snicker. With swift precision, he twisted the worshipper's wrist, eliciting a scream of pain. "Close your eyes, honey," the young man addressed the little girl, who obediently shut her eyes. In an instant, he unsheathed his dark sword and swiftly cleaved the worshipper in half. The grotesque have thudded to the ground, showering the refugees in a gruesome spray of blood. Screams of horror echoed from the horrified refugees, the image too much for them to bear. The young man turned to face the Agra worshipper who had been relentlessly kicking him. This worshipper was now on the ground, his leg broken and painful. Meanwhile, the remaining Agra worshippers surrounded the young man. "Cut him into pieces!" they cried out, their sinister intentions clear. Despite his reluctance to reveal his true power, Michael recognized that this situation called for immediate action. The system's urging to save the refugees and potentially gain followers aligned with his own determination to rid the world of these Agra worshippers. Unbeknownst to him, this choice would set in motion a series of events that would lead him into a conflict with the cruel god Agra. "John!" Billis' voice held a mix of surprise and respect as he observed the young man in a new light. Michael exchanged a meaningful smile with the three who had aided the refugees. But his attention swiftly returned to the Agra worshippers, his expression hardening. "Luck hasn't favored you today. It's death," Michael declared as two of the Agra worshippers lunged at him. Yet, in the blink of an eye, their heads were severed from their bodies. The refugees were unable to comprehend the swift, otherworldly speed of Michael's movements. The remaining four Agra worshippers stood frozen in terror, sensing a power beyond their understanding but unaware of his true identity due to Marlis medallions suppressing his godly aura. "Bandits seem to be a constant problem, no matter which world I'm in," Michael mused, wiping the blood from his dark sword onto his arm. We," the Agra worshippers stammered, their fear rendering them speechless. But before they could react, Michael lunged at them. In an instant, he cut down the remaining bandits as if they were mere obstacles. However, the leader of the Agra worshippers managed to take Billy hostage, using his sword to press against Billis' neck and issuing a threat to Michael. "If you dare take a step forward, I will cut open his throat," the last Agra worshipper shouted, holding Billy hostage. "What makes you think I'd give a damn about him?" Michael's unexpected response not only stunned the Agra worshipper but also left Billy, Micah, and Leon in disbelief. "Johns, please." Billis' voice trembled, a desperate plea for his life. "I'll take him with me." The Agra worshipper's desperation pushed him to the brink of killing Billy. Yet, as he made a move, dark beams shot forth from Michael's eyes, penetrating the Agra worshipper's skull. The worshipper's body froze momentarily before collapsing to the ground with a heavy thud. The refugees looked on, suddenly realizing that Michael was more than he appeared to be. While many in this world lacked cultivation or power, those blessed by the gods possessed the potential for such abilities. However, among them, only a fortunate few could attain higher levels of cultivation, let alone become an angel. Wealth, much like in the mortal realm, also played a pivotal role in cultivation. But it had never occurred to them that they might encounter a god in the flesh. As the lifeless bodies of the agro-worshippers lay in pools of their own blood, a new light shone upon Michael in the eyes of the refugees. Billy, Micah, and Leon approached him, their expressions a mix of fear and gratitude. The refugees, though slowly rising to their feet, still trembled from the shock of their near-death experience at the hands of the agro-worshippers. "Who are you?" Billy's voice wavered with a blend of apprehension and thankfulness. "For now, that's not important. Just remember this day," Michael replied calmly. He had no intention of unveiling his true identity just yet, even though the system was encouraging him to gather worshippers. Aware of his own current weakness compared to the higher-level gods and their angels, Michael chose to focus on learning about this world and growing stronger before facing them. "We should go before more of them show up," he suggested. "Thank you." The woman who had been on the brink of death at the hands of the agro-worshippers approached Michael, her voice laced with gratitude. To Michael's surprise, he felt an unfamiliar surge of power within himself. Although it didn't trigger any notifications from the system, he sensed its potency. "What is this feeling?" Michael questioned himself. "That is the power of reverence. The more worshippers you gather, the more your power will grow. Unlike you, who possess the system to gain strength, typical gods in this world tap into the power of worship to become stronger." The system revealed this new aspect to Michael. Unbeknownst to him, the realm of gods operated on a diverse scale of power and cultivation methods, a far cry from the straightforward dynamics of the mortal realm. Each god, and even mortals, followed distinct cultivation rules. Michael, being a god, had the ability to harness the power of worshippers. This power, however, could be derived not only from devoted worship but also from the grip of fear. The god Agra, in particular, drew strength from the terror of death and destruction, setting him apart from many other deities. Michael's introspective moment was abruptly interrupted by a resonating clap of thunder. His gaze shot upwards, where a streak of crimson-red lightning slashed across the sky. A familiar sight, akin to the lightning he had witnessed while with Darth, signaled to Michael that the more he employed his powers, the closer he drew the attention of the Pantheon. "Stay calm. Your focus should be on reaching Nimbosia and starting a new life," Michael reassured the shaken woman, motioning for the rest of the refugees to return to the safety of the carriage. "Let's go," he directed, leaping back onto the carriage's roof, mirroring his earlier stance. As the three drivers resettled themselves, the journey to Nimbosia, the realm of Raynar, the god of rain, resumed. "Prepare yourself, god of darkness. Your life is about to become significantly more complicated and challenging." Michael was caught off guard by the system's voice echoing in his mind. He peered into his pockets and found Vidora's eyes fixed on him, yet the Hydra remained silent. Something seemed to be troubling Vidora, but the creature refrained from voicing its concerns. The journey continued in quietude until the carriage finally emerged from the forest's embrace. Before Michael stretched a kingdom unlike any he had ever laid eyes upon. Towering stone walls shielded the cityscape beyond, masking its inner structures from view. Amidst this, a remarkable sight caught his attention. A grand edifice constructed from glass and adorned with gold accents. What struck Michael even more profoundly was the spectacle above the kingdom. Clusters of clouds had congregated, forming a colossal hand-like shape that generously showered rain upon the entire expanse. A river flowed around the city, its waters swelled by the constant downpour. However, what puzzled Michael was the conspicuous absence of thunderclaps or lightning streaks amidst the rainfall. "Nimbosia," Michael muttered softly, his eyes fixed on the distant cityscape on the horizon. "I hope they manage to find a better life behind those walls." Micah sighed, his eyes reflecting the skepticism born from witnessing the struggles of refugees. Often, their pursuit of a more promising life in a different kingdom ended up leading to even harsher circumstances. Such newcomers were frequently regarded as burdens, and their existence came with hardships. "I believe they will," Michael replied. Though he had no intention of taking on the role of their savior or playing the virtuous hero, He had a strong intuition that the refugees might indeed find better lives within the confines of Nimbosia's walls. Moreover, he was determined to uncover a way to challenge or vanquish a god. When that moment arrived, Raynar and the rest of the gods would have no choice but to bow before his might. As the carriage progressed toward the city gates, Michael's attention remained fixed on the sky. He pondered the extent of Raynar's power, marveling at the massive hand conjuring torrents of rain upon the kingdom. A deeper curiosity gnawed at him, why Raynar would subject his own citizens to such relentless punishment. Think we'll cross paths again? Billis' inquiry interrupted Michael's thoughts. You better hope not, Michael quipped, a hint of humor in his tone. Before Billy could respond, a deafening clap of thunder roared through the air. The sound was so intense, so terrifying, that it reverberated through the carriage, rattling its very frame. Michael instinctively looked skyward, his gaze tracing the trail of a lightning bolt slicing through the heavens. From that brilliant streak, a group of figures adorned in shimmering blue armor and boasting resplendent blue wings emerged, suspended in the sky. Chronicles angels, Billy muttered, his voice laced with unmistakable fear. In the wake of their appearance, Michael spotted yet another cluster of angels ascending from within the city's walls. Their wings were gray, their armor a somber shade of the same hue. With his keen eyes, Michael observed both groups of angels hovering in midair, poised for an imminent clash. Damn it! We've got to get inside before they go all out, Billy exclaimed urgently, snapping the reins to hasten the horse's pace toward the safety of the city's embrace. Chapter 1067. Angels of Goddess Ava. Observing the celestial skirmish above, Billy snapped the reins in a bid to propel the carriage forward. Meanwhile, high in the heavens, the azure-clad angels of Chronicles clashed with their gray-armored counterparts serving Raynar. Chronicles' angels wielded weapons hewn from frozen lightning, while Raynar's emissaries brandished blades forged of ice. Damn it! Billis' exclamation resounded as the tempestuous winds intensified due to the celestial battle unfolding overhead. Within the carriage, Michael felt the mounting strength of the gale slow the horse's progress. Soon, the carriage swayed precariously, tilting to one side under the onslaught of the storm's fury. The wind is too strong, Micah shouted as they struggled to maintain their balance. Reacting swiftly, Michael leapt to the ground and, with a determined effort, managed to steady the listing carriage. As he grappled with the vehicle, a bolt of lightning conjured by Chronicles' angels struck perilously close, mere meters away. Fucking morons. They are going to kill everyone in this carriage. Iag's frustrated voice emanated from Michael's coat. You should use your powers and carry the carriage to the city gates. Sarba Council urged Michael to draw upon his abilities. Yet, Michael resisted, wary of unveiling his godly powers and potentially alerting the Pantheon. While he exerted himself to keep the carriage upright, a curious jade radiance caught his attention in the sky above. Raising his gaze, Michael discerned an elven figure with undulating green tresses, porcelain complexion, and robes the hue of jade. Adorned with verdant wings, the ethereal being gracefully descended beside him. Who are you? Michael inquired, feigning his struggle to stabilize the swaying carriage. Unperturbed by his query, the green-haired elf favored him with a serene smile. Gently waving her hands, she conjured an emerald bubble that enveloped the carriage. Without delay, she seized Michael's hand, initiating an ascent towards the sky. As the horses neighed in distress, the elf directed a calming breeze their way, pacifying the agitated animals. Soon, the carriage, shielded by the elven enchantment, began to rise into the sky. Michael and the elf shared a prolonged gaze, yet neither uttered a single word. Safeguarded by the elf's intervention, they ascended toward the city through the azure expanse. Within the city's protective walls, the scene that met Michael's gaze was one of desolation. Except for the imposing structure crafted from glass and adorned with gilded embellishments, the remainder of the kingdom appeared haphazardly constructed, resembling a sprawling slum. Buildings stood crammed together without any semblance of a plan, devoid of side alleys or spacing. These houses appeared weathered, ancient, and poised to crumble at any given moment. The narrow streets lay deserted, and a putrid odor permeated the air, further intensified by the incessant downpour. Amid this grim setting, the celestial battle raged on in the heavens, where lightning streaks and frosty blades clashed. The impact of their skirmish toppled a few buildings, their collapse accompanied by heart-rending cries from within. Inquiring about the chaos below, Michael turned to the green-haired woman. "Aren't you going to intervene?" Her response was calm. "They will tend to them." Michael's gaze descended, observing the emergence of green-robed figures rushing to the scene. These elves, emanating a dim green radiance, initiated rescue operations, pulling people from the debris. However, some among them shook their heads, signaling that not all had been fortunate enough to survive. As Michael lifted his eyes, the celestial conflict continued unabated, the battling angels seemingly heedless of the city's inhabitants. Michael reflected on his own experiences in Nagaland, where he too had fought without considering the well-being of the citizens. Yet, the Guardian Guild had been there to evacuate people. Here, however, these citizens lacked such protection. Gradually, the elven woman guided the carriage's descent, and they alighted before a structure fashioned from verdant stones. "Escort the refugees into the temple." The elven woman instructed Micah, Billy, and Leon. To Michael's surprise, they complied without question, immediately springing into action. "Rest within the temple. You must be exhausted," the elven woman suggested, her hand moving towards Michael's forehead. However, before she could touch him, Michael intercepted her wrist. "I'm fine," Michael reassured her. The elf smiled, recognizing the apprehension in Michael's eyes regarding her true identity. "Come with me into the temple," the elven woman invited, leading the way as Michael followed. The refugees conveyed their gratitude with nods, silently acknowledging Michael's presence as he accompanied the elf into the temple. Inside, soft candlelight illuminated the space, permeated by a delicate, soothing fragrance. Yet what truly astonished Michael was the temple's interior spaciousness. It was as though some enchantment, possibly runes, had been employed to manipulate the very fabric of space, rendering the temple considerably more expansive within than its exterior dimensions suggested. Within this temple sanctuary, injured refugees rested on the floor, tended to by green-robed elves who skillfully attended to their wounds. "You don't appear to be a typical refugee or someone in need of assistance. What is your story?" the elf inquired, her tone gentle. "You haven't introduced yourself either," Michael responded, his curiosity piqued. "I am Faith, an angel of Ava, the goddess of healing," the elf revealed. Michael pondered for a few moments, his thoughts turning over. After some contemplation, he made up his mind to enlist Faith's assistance in locating Marlis worshippers. Ensuring the safe passage of Marlis followers back to her was paramount, as it required finding the individual among them who possessed an artifact from Marley, capable of opening a portal to her forest. "I'm John. I've come here to find the worshippers of Goddess Marley," Michael revealed, his decision finally made after careful consideration. "Worshippers of Goddess Marley?" Faith appeared surprised, yet a swift assessment of Michael seemed to provide her with some insight. "You don't strike me as Marlis' typical angel," Faith commented, a hint of amusement in her voice. "Marlis angel," Michael thought wryly to himself. "I'm not. I just need to locate them and ensure they escape Nimbosia before they're caught in the crossfire of the angelic battle," Michael explained, gesturing towards the temple's shuddering walls, a consequence of the ongoing celestial conflict. "Do you happen to know where I can find Marlis worshippers?" Michael inquired. In response, Faith let out a sigh, her eyes briefly revealing a glint of sorrow that Michael couldn't ignore. "Unfortunately, I do know. However, it won't be a straightforward task to locate them," Faith replied. Michael sighed in acknowledgement. "Believe me, nothing in my life comes easy." Michael's sigh carried the weight of his experiences. "If you don't mind my asking, why are you extending aid to Goddess Marley?" Faith's curiosity prompted her to question Michael's motives. "Just repaying a debt," Michael offered, opting to keep his motivations guarded. The truth was, His intention behind helping Marley was to secure her alliance. In the impending struggles against Dagon and the Pantheon, Michael knew he required allies, given that most gods wouldn't readily side with the god of darkness. Gaining allies was crucial for his cause. Faith's nod was slow and contemplative, but her eyes betrayed a sense of skepticism about Michael. As a non-god, she couldn't naturally discern his true nature. At most, she might assume he was an angel or a formidable higher-level cultivator. To consider him a god would require witnessing the full extent of his powers, something he wasn't eager to reveal. "Where can I find them?" Michael inquired, directing the conversation back to the matter at hand. "They're being held in Raynar's temple," Faith replied with a hint of sadness in her voice. Michael's intuition wasn't wrong. There was an undercurrent of trouble in the situation. "It doesn't sound promising," he prodded further. "It's not. God Raynar is losing ground to Croner in their celestial conflict. He's desperate for continuous worship, hence the city's emptiness," Faith explained, her tone carrying a mix of sympathy and disdain. "Under the king's orders, Raynar's loyal follower, the lackey, has commanded the citizens to remain indoors and worship Raynar fervently. Meanwhile, Marlis worshippers have been forcibly taken to Raynar's temple and are being coerced into becoming his followers," Faith revealed, a touch of disgust in her words. In the realm of gods, converting one god's worshippers into another's was considered a malevolent act. However, if the targeted god wasn't part of the pantheon, their actions against each other's followers often went unnoticed by the higher powers. As Marley wasn't part of the pantheon and Raynar was, the latter could impose his authority over Marlis worshippers without much consequence. How does that process work? Are they subjected to mind control or some other manipulation? Michael's curiosity prompted him to inquire. "That's certainly possible, but I don't believe they've reached that stage yet. It's more likely they are undergoing physical torment," Faith responded. For a brief moment, Michael fell into contemplation, mentally recording the information head received. Yet, abruptly, Faith's words trailed off, and her gaze fixed on him. "But you don't need to delve into those specifics. Rescuing them from Raynar's temple is a nearly impossible feat. Even the king would have little sway in this matter. My advice is to turn around and leave the kingdom," Faith suggested. Caught between his curiosity and his commitment to saving Marlis worshippers, Michael hesitated momentarily. Ultimately, he decided to embrace the risk and venture into the temple himself. The driving force behind Michael's decision was his pursuit of badass points. He recognized that playing it overly safe and timid wouldn't earn him the kind of recognition he desired. "At the very least, I can assess the situation. If it proves too risky, I'll relay the message to Marley," Michael affirmed. His casual reference to goddess Marley sparked a flicker of uncertainty within Faith. "Well, I can't prevent you from aiding those in need. It's not in goddess Ava's nature to inhibit such actions," Faith acknowledged. As another tremor rumbled through the air, Michael couldn't help but ask, "Any idea when this war might stop?" The intensity of the angels' battle was palpable, escalating with each passing second. "I truly don't know. The timeline depends on the Pantheon's intervention. It's uncommon for them to stand aloof during a confrontation between two of their own," Faith replied, her tone tinged with doubt and hesitation. The more Michael learned about the Pantheon, the deeper his confusion grew. Something seemed to be diverting the Pantheon's attention from their responsibilities. While the Pantheon was undoubtedly engaged in handling Dagon, the fact remained that Dagon couldn't yet breach the realm of gods. This led Michael to question what force could be holding the Pantheon back from fulfilling their duties and what might be preventing the gods from abandoning their domains.